Hare Krishna. So just to let you know the program, I'll be reading some offerings from the book. Very rare book. Printed version. There's only about 200 of them. And then I'm going to read. Well, then I think I'll invite Madhusudan Prabhu and his good wife to read their offerings. And anyone, generally what happens as I do this is people stream in, people come in. I couldn't say they stream in. See, there's one right there. And there's also a Zoom phenomenon. I think there are devotees maybe watching who can also read offerings. And this goes on generally till about 11, when usually we have a murti of Srila Prabhupada, and we have a bathing, the abhishek, and kirtan. It culminates ultimately in the noon arti, simultaneous Guru Puja, and then the feast, which is being prepared as we speak. And I think more devotees are going to come in there. I don't know if Madhusudan or you're going to make something. Sweet rice? Okay, so that's great. All right, I'm a little slow because we had a nice Mangalarti, myself, Mukunda, and Manibandhani came in a little later. That was it. But obviously we didn't get much sleep. So I'll begin with reading an offering from Giriraj Swami. We have a new section in this book. It's called GBC Emeriti. That's plural of emeritus, which means GBC have retired and they're honored for it. Let me find it in here. Actually, first I'm going to read the meaning of Vyasa Puja. We don't usually do that, but this is a very nice, they're all nice, but this Jagatarini wrote this. Jagatarini, I'm sorry, I get the colloquial pronunciation. The meaning of Vyasa Puja by Jagatarini Devi Dasi, who's the good wife of Burijan Prabhu, longtime residents of Perth and also Vrindavan. They spend a lot of time there. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna tells us that he is present everywhere in the form of time, and that by time's power alone, everyone and everything is destroyed. The influence of time is so subtle that we feel it as change, changes we desire and changes we hate, at every moment. So time, which is Krishna himself, may appear to be a ruthless dictator. Quote, time is destruction, and all manifestations are to be vanquished by the desire of the Supreme Lord. That is the law of nature. This is the words from Srila Prabhupada's purport to Bhagavad Gita 11:32, which is probably time AM. Kalos miloka chaikripavina. As long as we have the intention to dominate matter, as long as we want power and control, we are subject to creation and destruction under the superior power of God. However, for those who are searching for truth and happiness beyond the desire to exploit matter, there is a different plan. Throughout history, such persons have been advised to seek the help of saints. When a saintly Vaishnava appears in this world, we never want to forget him. Although outwardly such saints come under the jurisdiction of time, inwardly they do not. The Vedic tradition, recognizing the importance of these saints, have instituted Guru worship to be performed annually by disciples on Guru Purnima, which falls just before the first month of Chaturmasya. Sannyasis, who were meant to lead society by their ideal example, were also to worship their gurus and their parampara on their own birthday, along with worshipping Srila Vyasadeva on Guru Purnima. Thus, the Vedic culture, being the most comprehensive spiritual tradition known to humankind, established Vyasa Puja in ancient times and insisted that anyone desiring freedom from the tyranny of time accept the principle of serving and worshipping their spiritual master. This ancient institution of Guru Puja was also meant to keep saints alive and present long into the future. We members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness are fortunate to have been requested by Srila Prabhupada not only to perform annual worship of our founder Acharya, but to keep him firmly present in our lives through daily worship as well. Sometimes, in the midst of our busy lives in this passionate world, we overlook the significance of the debt we owe Srila Prabhupada. Yet it is a fact that each of us, whether his initiated disciple, grand disciple, or great-grand disciple, and there are some of those now, Bhakti Tirtha Swami as a disciple who's initiating more disciples now. Great-grand disciple. Whether initiated disciple, grand disciple, or great-grand disciple, such a person lives within the shelter Srila Prabhupada has established for us. In that shelter, we are safe to serve, practice our sadhana, and express our personal faith. And now here's a quote from a lecture Srila Prabhupada gave in 1974 in Los Angeles. Because we get knowledge, Vedic knowledge, from the rishis, we must be debtor. Guru Rina. Debtor to the spiritual master, to the sages, to the saintly persons, because we are getting knowledge from them. Therefore, the Vyasa Puja is there. Once in a year, the disciples are worshipping the spiritual master and trying to repay what he has received, the disciple has received, from the spiritual master. Our relationship with God is a fact. We have heard Srila Prabhupada speak on numerous occasions about the purpose of his Krishna consciousness movement. He never failed to warn us about the dangerous position in which we find ourselves in this world, which is fast entering the ignorance of Kali Yuga. We know that degradation on all fronts is unavoidable, yet he still delivered to the West, and later again to India and the East, a message of hope. In the same July 1974 lecture, he stated, "And how can one be happy? So many sinful activities are going on. How they expect to become happy? It is not possible. Sober man becomes unhappy, paradukkha, especially a Vaishnav. A Vaishnav has no problem for himself, but he has many problems for others." When Srila Prabhupada was first establishing his mission, he left Sri Vrindavan Dham, where he was living peacefully, where he was fully happy, and traveled to various places in India to share Krishna consciousness and enlist the help of people he knew. Each of them respected his determination and devotion, but none of them believed he could bring about any significant change in the world. But they were all mistaken. His mission was to give Krishna consciousness to the world, and his vision for how he would accomplish this included publishing and distributing his books. In the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita we read, Srila Prabhupada's ambition was to replace mundane literature with transcendental. At least in every home there should be one piece of Krishna conscious literature, he reasoned, because if a person read only one page, his life could be turned toward perfection. Quote, "If 1% of the readers become devotees," he wrote, "that will change the world." When Srila Prabhupada finally traveled to the West, he brought with him the Yuga Dharma, the process that would transform the hell of the material world into Vaikuntha. He called this process devotional service, a complete lifestyle centered on chanting God's holy name and performing other services for him. Introducing this Krishna consciousness was how he would change everything. In Jai Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Vikas Swami writes, "Starting with 40 rupees and a trunk of books, Srila Prabhupada started an international movement comprising temples, farms, schools, and multiple volumes of books published in all major languages. Arriving in America at, quote, the fag end of his life, unquote, within 12 years he made Hare Krishna a household phrase and sowed the seeds of a cultural and spiritual revolution destined to change the world." Srila Prabhupada created a house in which the whole world could live, and we, his dedicated followers, are asked to assist his mission in whatever way we can. As a society, we should retain his transcendental vibrancy for thousands of years to come, and thereby keep his mission alive and faithful to his vision for it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the avatar of Sri Krishna for Kali Yuga, who began the Sankirtan movement in Sri Dham Mayapur, also showed by his own example the significance and purpose of Vyasa Puja. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, we hear about Nityananda Prabhu's mysterious arrival in Mayapur and how Lord Chaitanya, known then as Vishvambar, sent all the Vaishnavas out to find him. No one could, and they returned puzzled. Nityananda Prabhu represents the Guru principle, and he was hiding. Only if Vishvambar himself brought the devotees to where Lord Nityananda was, could they approach him. When Nityananda Prabhu and Vishvambar met, their exchange was extraordinarily auspicious, and the Vaishnavas were amazed to see the intense devotional sentiments they shared. The Vaishnavas felt greatly fortunate to witness such loving exchanges, and once the two lords were finally together, they became inseparable. Vishvambar said, "Tomorrow is the full moon day of Guru Purnima. Where will you celebrate Vyasa Puja?" Lord Nityananda wanted to observe the ceremony at the home of Srivas Pandit, and Srivas happily accepted the proposal. The following day, Srivas Pandit served as the Acharya for the Vyasa Puja observance, and on Vishvambar's order performed the rituals. Placing a beautiful garland in Lord Nityananda's hands, he instructed him to offer the garland to Srila Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Vedas. Acting as if he were bewildered, Nityananda did not follow Srivas' direction, but instead looked around him until he saw Vishvambar. Then, breaking the established principle of worship, he approached the Lord and draped the garland around his neck. Here we are given an essential glimpse into the meaning of Sri Vyasa Puja. This sacred event of worshipping the Guru is meant to culminate in the worship of the Adi Guru, or the Supreme Person, who is the master of everyone and everything. In a lecture given in Hamburg in 1969 to a new group of followers, Srila Prabhupada enlightened us about the importance of praising one's spiritual master and how that praise is passed on to the Lord. Srila Prabhupada says, "All this eulogization about me, people, outsider may think that, quote, this man is being flattered and he is hearing his own eulogization. But that is not the fact. It is the test, how they are receiving the message sincerely and expressing their feeling. So it is going to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As it has come through the channel of disciplic succession, all these praises will also reach to Krishna through that disciplic succession. So it is not a personal thing. These things are required. Just like in the military training, they are taught by the officers in a different way, in so many ways. Similarly, this is training of Krishna consciousness so that the feeling of pure consciousness will reach to Krishna." Later at New Vrindavan in 1972, Srila Prabhupada again addressed his disciples on this topic. Quote, "So this is the position of a spiritual master. Don't misunderstand that, quote, this person is sitting very comfortably and taking all honors and contribution. It is needed just to teach them how to respect the representative of God. This is the sum and substance of Vyasa Puja." Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami compares Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to both a gardener who plants and tends a tree, and the trunk of the tree itself, which supports, sustains, and generates the tree's growth. In commenting on this analogy, Srila Prabhupada describes ISKCON as a branch of that unlimited tree, which is both created and sustained by Krishna himself. In order for our ISKCON society to become vibrant, healthy, and powerful, we must remain connected to the branch, the trunk, and the gardener. When we offer our dedicated homages to Srila Prabhupada, this should be the internal purpose of our glorification. Sri Vyasa Puja is the opportunity we are given to remember our connection. And one last reflection on this important day. Having a careful understanding of the meaning and importance of Vyasa Puja is essential. But we should remember that there are no required formalities in Krishna consciousness. Our experience and success in bhakti depend on our intention as we practice it. Govinda Dasi describes how, in Montreal in 1968, she observed Srila Prabhupada's birthday without understanding the formal procedures of the Vyasa Puja ceremony. With affection, she baked Srila Prabhupada the typical double-layer birthday cake one would offer someone celebrating a birthday in the West. After icing it, she brought it to his room with birthday candles aflame. He was surprised and raised his eyebrows in curiosity. When she told him this was how people celebrated birthdays in America, he simply nodded. She said, Srila Prabhupada, now make a wish and blow out all the candles with one breath. Welcome, Rajendananda Prabhu. Nice to see you. She said, with one breath. Srila Prabhupada caught on, and with one deep whoosh of air, he blew out every candle on the cake. Then he laughed and said, I have done good? Yes, Govinda Dasi laughed. Now you will get your wish, but you don't have to tell me or anyone what you wished for. I wish only for Krishna, he said, smiling, his voice deep, for Krishna and Krishna's service. Now, over 50 years later, we are well trained in how to perform the proper ceremonies. Yet at the same time, may we retain a kind, loving, open-hearted simplicity on this sacred occasion. And may we pray, as Srila Prabhupada prayed, that one day, by his grace, we too may wish only for Krishna and Krishna's service. This is the meaning of Vyasa Puja. This is written by Jagatarani Devidasi. Yeah, it's a wonderful offering. So now, I would like to read, actually, yeah, I marked them off here, so this I'll read it from here. Hare Krishna. Forgive me, as I mentioned, I'm a little slow. We had Mangalartik this morning, and I'm very little sleep. So, I'm going to first read Giriraj Swami's offering. Yeah, thank you, to help. Okay. Okay. This is a very sweet offering he wrote, as always. Okay. Actually, I'm sorry, I didn't. Give me 1 second. Yeah. This will be easier. Okay. So this is Giriraj Swami's offering for Srila Prabhupada for the Vyasa Puja 2021, entitled, How Shall I Take Shelter of One More Merciful Than You? My dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my prostrated obeisances at your divine lotus feet. All glories to your divine grace and to your sublime mercy. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, verse 23 is very significant. Not only is the verse beautiful, but it also has historical significance because when after 16 years Shukadeva Goswami came out of the womb, he left home immediately and his father, Srila Vyasadeva, followed him into the forest. And when Vyasadeva came close enough to his son for Shukadeva to hear, he recited 2 verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, one describing Krishna's beauty from the 10th canto, and one, this verse, describing Krishna's mercy. When Shukadeva Goswami heard these 2 verses, the one describing Krishna's mercy and the one describing Krishna's beauty, he became attracted. Although liberated, he became attracted by Krishna's transcendental qualities, and he came back to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from his father. I quote this verse today because it reminds me of you. How shall I take shelter of one more merciful than you? Aho bakiyam stanakala kutam Jagangsayapa yayadapya sadvi lebe gatim datuchitam tatonyam kambadayalung shananang vajema. Translation. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than him, Lord Krishna, who granted the position of mother to the she-demon Putana, although she was faithless and had prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. Purport. Here is an example of the extreme mercy of the Lord, even to his enemy. It is said that a noble man accepts the good qualities of a person of doubtful character, just as one accepts nectar from a stock of poison. In his babyhood, the Lord was administered deadly poison by Putana, and a she-demon who tried to kill the wonderful baby. And because she was a demon, it was impossible for her to know that the Supreme Lord, even though playing the part of a baby, was no one less than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His value as the Supreme Lord did not diminish upon his becoming a baby to please his devotee Yashoda. The Lord may assume the form of a baby or a shape other than of a human being, but it doesn't make the slightest difference. He is always the same Supreme. A living creature, however powerful he may be, a living creature, however powerful he may become by dint of severe penance, can never become equal to the Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna accepted the motherhood of Putana because she pretended to be an affectionate mother, allowing Krishna to suck her breast. The Lord accepts the least qualification of the living entity and awards him the highest reward. That is the standard of his character. Therefore, who but the Lord can be the ultimate shelter? So that's the quote from the purport. Guru Swami continues, the Lord is absolute. He is all good for everyone, and he is neutral toward everyone. He is always thinking of how to do good for others. So even if one approaches him as an enemy, he, Krishna, will try to do good for the person, as in the case of Putana. Although she came to kill Krishna by administering poison from her breast, he elevated her to the position of a nurse, like a mother, in the spiritual world. And as merciful as he is, you are even more merciful. You, Srila Prabhupada, are even more merciful. You said that it is a mark of a good man that he sees the good side, not the bad side of others. You gave the example of your Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had a disciple named Kunja Bihari Das. People used to call him Kunja Babu, who, you said, came to do business with your Guru Maharaj, to profit personally from his relationship with him and from his service in the Gaudiya Math. But you said that your Guru Maharaj didn't focus on Kunja's dark side, that he was coming to make business, but on his bright side, that he was coming to offer service. In your conversation with Bob Cohen, Brahmatirtha Das, on February 28, 1972 in Mayapur, you said, later he was initiated as Brahmatirtha. Prabhupada says, Putana Rakshasi, she offered Krishna poison, but Krishna is so nice that he thought, she took me as my mother. So he took the poison and delivered her. Krishna does not take the bad side. A good man does not take the bad side. He takes only the good side. Just like one of my big godbrothers, he wanted to make business with my Guru Maharaj, but my Guru Maharaj did not take the bad side. He took the good side. He thought, he has come forward to give me some service. So this verse reminds me of you. How shall I take shelter of one more merciful than your divine grace? There was no one more merciful than you. Lord Nityananda is most merciful, and you manifested the same quality of mercy as Nityananda Prabhu. In Bombay, you received a phone call from the temple president in Calcutta, who reported that one of your earliest disciples from America had come to Calcutta and was smoking ganja, marijuana, and he asked what to do. You instructed your secretary to relay your response. Quote, tell him that if he doesn't stop smoking ganja, I will reject him. Afterwards, Tamal Krishna Goswami asked, is it true that if he doesn't stop smoking ganja, you will reject him? And you said, no, I cannot reject anyone. The mercy of Lord Nityananda has no limit. Then, maybe 2 years later, we were in Juhu, and you had a disciple who fell into bad company and was living on Juhu Beach with a bogus so-called yogi and doing tricks. He was putting a coin in one ear and then making it come out the other. Different strange things to collect money. And he was known as your disciple and as a member of ISKCON. So Tamal Krishna Goswami approached you and said, this is happening, and he is giving you a bad name and giving ISKCON a bad name. You should reject him. And again you replied, I cannot reject anyone. Tamal Krishna Goswami asked, but don't you have to draw the line somewhere? And again you said, the mercy of Lord Nityananda has no limits. Srila Prabhupada, you are the manifest representative of Lord Nityananda Prabhu, and your forgiveness is like his. How shall I take shelter of one more merciful than you? Another similar quality of yours is that you are always willing to give someone a chance to take up Krishna consciousness. Around 1976, a strange man with a PhD came to the Juhu temple and said he wanted to join. And you invited him to stay upstairs with your personal staff in the flat adjoining yours. And you spent quite a bit of time with him. Hamsadutta Prabhu was visiting at the time, and he told you, Prabhupada, you're just wasting your time with this man. He's never going to amount to anything. But you kept spending time with him, and in the end, the man left. He never did amount to anything. But when Hamsadutta mentioned that to you, I could see that he never was going to amount to anything. You replied, I wanted to give him a chance. Another person whom you encouraged was Dr. C.P. Patel, who would almost always accompany you on your morning walks on Juhu Beach. You had a friendly relationship with him, but Dr. Patel would sometimes speak like a Mayavadi. You would accuse him, "You're a Mayavadi." And Dr. Patel would reply, "No, sir, I am a Vaishnav, a pure Vaishnav." One morning, Dr. Patel and you had a huge argument. Dr. Patel would bring up different so-called holy men of India, and if they were not up to standard, you would criticize them. So one morning, you were criticizing one of Dr. Patel's favorite revered so-called saints of India, and Dr. Patel and you had a huge argument. He raised his voice to you, and you raised your voice to him. The two of you were literally shouting at each other. And Dr. Patel's friends, his cronies, were trying to pull him away, saying, "Don't upset Swamiji. He has a heart condition." And eventually they pulled him away. Back at Hare Krishna land, that's where the temple was. It's called Hare Krishna land. Tamal Krishna Goswami approached you in your room and asked, "What is Dr. Patel's position? Is he a Vaishnav or a Mayavadi, an impersonalist?" In response, you told a story about a man who could speak many languages. In whatever language people addressed him, he would respond fluently. No one could figure out where the man was actually from. After much discussion, a neighbor said, "I will find out." So one day when the man was preoccupied, the neighbor came up behind him and gave him a big whack. And when the man started to curse in his native tongue, his origin was disclosed. Dr. Patel is like that, Prabhupada said. He can speak very expertly. He can sound like a devotee, sound like a Vaishnav, sound like a Mayavadi, sound like anything. But when I gave a slap where it really hurt, this so-called saintly person that he revered, his real language came out. "So why do you put up with him?" Tamal Krishna asked. "He is so offensive." "It is our duty to engage everyone," you said. You wanted to give Dr. Patel a chance. And as the years passed, Dr. Patel developed great affection for you. And after you left this world, he wrote a beautiful article for Back to Godhead about his relationship with you. The article was titled, "My Life's Most Precious Moments," with the subtitle, "A Bombay Doctor Wins the Title Big Fool and Loves It." Because you would always call Dr. Patel a Mudha. You would say, "I am not saying, Krishna is saying, Namam Duskrita no Mudha." Anyone who doesn't surrender to Krishna is a Mudha, a fool. So how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than you? Your divine grace has so many wonderful qualities, but your most significant quality, for us especially, was your extreme mercifulness. You had a good friend in Bombay named Bhogilal Patel, who was extremely pious. The first devotee to meet him was Gargamuni, and when Gargamuni was explaining your work, Bhogilal wept profuse tears of appreciation. One day, some years later, Bhogilal Patel came to meet you in your flat at the back of Hare Krishna land. I had a close relationship with Bhogilal, so I brought him up to meet you. The two of you were talking, and as is natural in a conversation, when you were speaking, I would look at you, and when Bhogilal was speaking, I would look at him. But at one point, when Bhogilal was speaking, I looked at you, which you were not expecting, and I saw that you were looking at me with such love and affection like a father or a grandfather. By age, you were more like my grandfather. I was surprised that you were looking at me with so much love, but as soon as you saw me looking at you, you changed your expression and became very grave and serious. I think it was some special mercy that I got a glimpse of how much love you had for us, which you didn't usually show very openly. Your love for us was manifest in your care for us and your giving us the knowledge of Krishna consciousness and engaging us in Krishna's service. You were very reserved about touching people, including even disciples. In 1971 in Gorakhpur, as guests of Hanuman Prasad Podar of Gita Press, you were staying in his large estate, Sri Krishna Niketan, which had previously been his personal residence. You were traveling with your small Radha Krishna deities, and you wanted to establish an altar for them in Sri Krishna Niketan. You wanted some foliage for the altar, so you sent me and a few other devotees to collect some. I went out to a thicket and was collecting branches with leaves. I wasn't tearing them live, I was looking for branches and leaves that had fallen. I just kept going deeper and deeper into the woods and collecting more and more foliage, and eventually I had a huge bundle, as much as I could possibly carry. So I lugged the bundle back to Sri Krishna Niketan and up the stairs, and when I reached the temple room, you were there and the altar was being set up. I just dropped the bundle on the floor and offered my obeisances, and while I was on the floor, you patted me on the back. It was one of the only times, maybe the only time, that you physically touched me. I looked up and saw you smiling broadly. I didn't know it, I didn't know if you even needed any more foliage, but you were pleased by my effort. Again I ask, Srila Prabhupada, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than you? Thank you for your ongoing causeless mercy, which, like Nityananda Prabhu's, has no limit. I pray to serve your merciful lotus feet eternally, and in doing so, to share your sublime mercy with others. Hare Krishna, your eternal servant, Giriraj Swami. That was extraordinary. So I'm going to read one more, and then I'm going to ask Madhusudan and his good wife to read theirs. And I'm going to read mine, and then Rajendranath is going to read his. And if you have something you can say. And gradually we'll proceed in that way. And I predict, as in years past, that people will gradually come in and sit. So, I've hopefully got this together. Forgive me. It's been a long waking. Okay. All right. So this is quite short. In fact, I called Radhanath Swami at the last day. I didn't call him, I wrote to him. And as Maharaj, please, the book is going to be lacking your offering unless you send one. This is like several months past the deadline. So he thanked me and he wrote this short offering. Very sweet. Hare Krishna. Sorry. This is bad. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my sincere obeisances and my heartfelt gratitude. As time is passing, especially in these challenging days, we are experiencing more and more the physical departure of beloved Vaishnavas, those who are very dear to you. In your life and teachings, you have taught us to deeply seek shelter of Sri Guru and Gauranga in all conditions of life. In that shelter, you have given us entrance into the beauty and grace that is inherent within the heartbreak of loving service and separation. In a world of suffering and death, you are giving us the path to experience spiritual joy in our eternal relationship with Krishna, and to share that happiness with one another and with the world. You have given us the holy names of Radha Govinda, the Vaishnava literature, the holy Dhams, and the eternal flow of mercy descending through the acharyas of our Guru Parampara. I pray to be forever absorbed in seeking shelter of these matchless gifts. Srila Prabhupada, our devotional lives are dependent on your divine grace. You have made historic sacrifices to give us a worldwide devotional community that allows us to appreciate, practice, and exchange Krishna consciousness. Now, you have entrusted all of us with this gift. I pray that the inevitable issues that confront us will not distract us from what is truly valuable, the legacy of your compassion. This legacy lives forever in the hearts of those who love you. You gave us Krishna. In Krishna, we are forever together. I pray to forever aspire to be a sincere servant of your servants. Radhanath Swami. You ready? Oh, you got the book. Yeah. Be really big this year. Yes, this is Tribute's book, Prabhupada Disciples, yeah. Yeah, 300 devotees wrote this year, which is a record. Finally, right? I don't know, but it was significantly less.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, my link to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances in the dust of your lotus feet. How else could I be here, still trying to rid myself of many years of sinful sanskaras, if not for your compassion and for extending the unlimited compassion of Sri Gauranga in this age of Kali. As I grow older, only now I can begin to understand your enormous sacrifice you made just to execute the order of your Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. At the age of 69, you left the comforting shelter of Sri Vrindavan Dham just to fulfill the prophecy of Lord Chaitanya that the holy names will be chanted in all the towns and villages of the world. Pritivite ache yata nagaradi gram sarvatra prachar haibe moranam. Just like a loving father tricks his immature child in order to keep him on the right path, you tricked me into connecting to and staying on the path of bhakti. You said the process was easy and sublime, and although the process is sublime, it isn't easy. But then you said it is easy for the simple, but difficult for the crooked. You also said for those who are materialistic, it will take longer to come to the standard. Okay, that explains it. So you came to deliver the most fallen, and there I was, and you engaged me in your book production. You kept me busy so I could control my demon mind. You patiently answered all my questions and encouraged me by telling me that I was an intelligent boy. You taught us to call each other Prabhu. But my contaminated heart could not really appreciate my siblings. I still thought I was superior and wanted to be the Prabhu. Gradually, by chanting the holy name of Krishna with as much seriousness as I could muster, and hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, purification began to happen, and I realized that I am much happier when I feel myself servant of the servant and not the Prabhu. I can understand now that the natural consciousness of the living entity is that of having a humble state of mind. You have revealed this to us in your translation of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So many devotees write about exhibiting deep humility, even though they may be very exalted souls. And you yourself have displayed that as well. Your Guru Maharaj would even address his disciples as Prabhu. As the great Thakur Bhaktivinoda prays to the Lord in his song Bhajana Lalasa, quote, "O my Lord Hari, enthusiasm in devotional service, faith in the process of devotional service, the treasure of patience in attaining love of God, performing activities favorable to devotion, abandoning the company of worldly people, performing approved devotional practices. I have never possessed these 6 devotional qualities. O Lord, how then shall I give up my affinity for Maya and worship your lotus feet? Remaining absorbed in abominable activities, I never kept company with sadhus. Now I adopt the garb of a sadhu and act out the role of instructing others. This is Maya's big joke. O Lord Hari, how humble can you be? O Lord Hari, in such a helpless condition, surely I will receive your causeless mercy. Oh, when, under the shelter of my spiritual master, will I call out to you with my humble entreaty? These natural emotions are an encouraging example for me to follow. These feelings of helplessness and humility is the key to unlock the door and enter the house of bhakti. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for bringing the entire disciplic chain for me to grab hold of. It's my only hope of getting out someday of my materialistic consciousness. Please continue feeding me the drops of your mercy. Praying to remain your spiritual son, Madhusudan Das.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my most humble obeisances at the dust of your transcendental lotus feet. It is only by the grace and mercy of my beloved spiritual master and father, Srila Prabhupada, can I ever feel the pervading protection of his lotus feet through loving devotional service and being immersed in thoughts and remembrances of him. The debt to our spiritual master can never be repaid. Besides the extreme arduous journey Srila Prabhupada undertook to arrive here, was his deep contemplation and resolute determination beforehand. An excerpt from our Srila Prabhupada, A Friend to All, compiled by Her Grace Mulapakriti Devi Dasi. Quote, "A Pujari from Sri Advaita Acharya's house in West Bengal came by to Sridham Mayapur Temple in 1980 with a copy of a Back to Godhead article about Srila Prabhupada, a lifetime in preparation. The Pujari and Sevite at Advaita Acharya's house was there for many years, back to the 1940s, 50s. At that time, he noticed one Grihastha Bengali coming quite regularly. He always came to the mandir alone and would sit in the back without speaking, just chanting on his mala very quietly and deeply. After chanting many hours, he would always thank me and leave. His presence was profound, and the Pujari was attracted to him, yet he didn't speak to disturb his devotions. Sometimes he would notice Srila Prabhupada's eyes would be full of tears and his voice would be choked up. Then for a very long time he did not come. However, the Pujari distinctly recalled that in August 1965 he saw a saffron-clothed sannyasi sitting in the back of the mandir and recognized him to be his old friend from before. Again, Srila Prabhupada sat chanting Hare Krishna in deep, concentrated devotion, weeping. Then he paid his Dandavat Pranam for a long time and came over to the Pujari, thanking the Pujari for his seva. The Pujari asked, "Who are you? I remember you from long ago." Srila Prabhupada replied, "My name is Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj. I am an unworthy disciple of His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, my Divine Master. I have been coming here for such a long time because my Guru Dev has given me an impossible mission to go across the ocean to the west and spread the sublime teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I have not known how this mission of his will be successful, so I've been coming here to the special house of Sri Advaita Acharya, along with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda. Thus I have been praying very earnestly that they will empower me and guide me. I want to satisfy my Guru Dev's desire, but I am feeling unqualified to do this," unquote. As he was speaking, the Pujari saw tears falling down on his cheeks again. Then he continued, "Tomorrow I am leaving for Kolkata upon a ship across the ocean to America. I don't know what will befall me there, but I am praying most earnestly here for help." Then he very humbly asked the Pujari for his blessings. The Pujari was so moved by this sincerity and determination. It was a few years later that I began noticing for the first time white Vaishnavas coming to Advaita Bhavan. They were wearing dhotis and saris and chanting on Tulsi Mala. One of them gave the Pujari this Back to Godhead magazine from America. As he looked at the photographs, the Pujari recognized a picture of the founder Acharya, who had brought Krishna consciousness to the West. It was a picture of his friend, Bhaktivedanta Swami, who had come and prayed here so many times before. Then he realized that Srila Prabhupada actually accomplished that impossible mission of his Guru Dev. He saw that it was indeed Prabhupada starting alone and without pretense who had accomplished this glorious miracle against all odds. The Pujari said, "As soon as I saw this, I came here to his temple in Mayapur to tell you this information. I know that he has gone from this world now, but thought you might want to hear this story about your and my beloved Srila Prabhupada." Hearing this over and over again is so moving, displaying Srila Prabhupada's glorious character. From being as strong as a thunderbolt, not watering down the philosophy, to genuine compassion, humility, and tolerance, Srila Prabhupada was distributing endlessly valuable knowledge, the exalted pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, from an authentic, powerful line of disciplic succession. Srila Prabhupada is always present. A number of months ago, after a significant time waiting, Srila Prabhupada arrived at our home in his divine mercy form from Lochan Prabhu. Our home became sanctified with his holy presence. It was and is wonderful beyond words to experience the same joyousness of Srila Prabhupada arriving at any of the temples we were at during his manifest presence. Being there with the assembled devotees scurrying around, making preparations for his grand arrival, and it was the same feeling and consciousness making sure everything was in place for His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. It is the causeless mercy of Krishna to have even a moment's association of His pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, which is priceless. A while ago, I saw a photo of Srila Prabhupada walking near or around 72nd Street in New York in 1965. I was just so awestruck remembering how I, as a junior high school student, walked on 72nd Street to school daily. I hadn't seen His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada then, but seeing those familiar buildings and then realizing that Srila Prabhupada had actually been there was such an amazing feeling. It wasn't my time yet. Then 2 years later, hearing Srila Prabhupada's Happening album, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, and hearing about him was fulfilling and ever fresh. I learned more valuable jewels of lessons he imparted to us all. In a bond of love, Srila Prabhupada and his daughters, so many poignant, heartfelt realizations are shared and reveal Srila Prabhupada's magnanimous self, his unique individual exchanges with such caring acknowledgement. In one pastime, a devotee described how she was not extroverted and never a book distributor, but as she sat with Srila Prabhupada and the devotees at the airport, Srila Prabhupada said that the cruelest thing is to keep people in ignorance, pushing devotees to distribute his books. She questioned herself, why couldn't she couldn't distribute some Prabhupada books for Srila Prabhupada as he had given her life. She immediately picked up a nectar of devotion and stopped a young businessman. He stopped, but she didn't know what to say. Her eyes flooded with tears, and he left. Then Srila Prabhupada's flight was announced. He walked to his gate, turned around, and gravely looked directly at her, put his palms together, bowed his head, turned and left. It had such an effect on her that Srila Prabhupada appreciated her and was pleased for the effort, not the result. It was just so profound to read this. It is what is in the heart and mind of the devotee that counts. Such is the causeless kindness, encouragement, consistent prodding of Srila Prabhupada to purify our whole existence, not just externally but internally, cultivating humility, sincerity, faith, perseverance, and devotion. It is only by your divine grace, Srila Prabhupada Jagat Guru, that I can ever grasp your precious gift of Krishna Bhakti and pray forever to be in your loving service, not just externally but internally too. I beg to remain always your servant and daughter. Hare Krishna.
This is also in the Tributes book. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my prostrated obeisances at your divine lotus feet. All glories to you. I am now in my 74th year in this body, and my 49th year of your service. And with each passing day, month, and year, and they seem to be whizzing by ever faster, my appreciation for your kindness and compassion on this wretched soul deepens. Like so many of my contemporaries, children of the turbulent 60s in America, in the early 70s I had lost my way and was heading in a dark and dangerous direction. But Lord Krishna had plans for me. He reached out to me through his dearest servant, your divine self, and through your representatives, your disciples, and through your books and the all-attractive Sri Sri Radha Govinda deities at the precious Henry Street, Brooklyn Temple, where I joined on March 27, 1973. 2 weeks later, you visited the temple. I'll never forget your lecture on Queen Kunti's prayer at Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.21. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Pradyumna Prabhu read the translation. Let me therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has become the son of Vasudeva, the pleasure of Devaki, the boy of Nanda, and the other cowherd men of Vrindavan, and the enlivener of the cows and senses. You spoke for a few minutes on the verses leading up to this one, and then you spoke these words that went straight into my heart and drew me irrevocably to your lotus feet. Chant Hare Krishna mantra and hear repeatedly, and take prasadam. These are the two businesses of the tongue. Soul, you'll realize. Very simple method. Sevan mukhi jivado swayam. Krishna will reveal. Not that by your endeavor you can understand Krishna, but your endeavor is the loving service. That will make you qualified. Krishna will reveal. Swayam eva spuratyadaha. Krishna is very much anxious to take you back home, back to Godhead. But we are stubborn. We do not wish. So he's always finding out the opportunity how you can be taken back home, back to Godhead. Just like affectionate father. Rascal son left his father, loitering in the street, and has no shelter, no food, suffering so much. The father is more anxious to take the boy home. Similarly, Krishna is the supreme father. All these living entities within this material world, they're exactly like the misled child of a big rich man loitering in the street. Therefore, the greatest benefit to the human society is to give him Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada, I very much felt like the rascal son loitering in the street with no shelter, and I very much felt that you were my real father who was anxious to take this boy home. I still feel that way, and I fervently pray that by your mercy I can overcome my deep-rooted anarthas, stay in your service till my final hour in this body, and rejoin you in our eternal home at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Your aspiring servant, Dravida Das. Haribol.
So first of all, if you allow me to offer my obeisances at your feet, Vanchakopataribhyascha, Kripa Sindhubheva-cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I'm very much missing your association, and I felt like I had to drag this carcass here today because when you hear the expressions of gratitude and devotion, the desire for service, increased surrender from followers of Srila Prabhupada, then it certainly brings out the best in us, the best in me. It's amazing when you feel the presence of Srila Prabhupada as if he were personally present as he was in the mid to late 70s. But this happens sometimes in the association of devotees. It's an extra bonus because that feeling can't be found anywhere else from any other activity than surrender to the Lord and his devotees. So it's very auspicious, and I'm very grateful to be allowed to be here and to offer this insignificant offering. It's a little difficult because I was somewhat in an internal mood, but I hope it's a balanced offering. My dearest Srila Prabhupada, please accept my obeisances. All glories to your divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It's time again to put thoughts to paper and beg for the ability to offer you some drop of glorification, expressions of gratitude and commitment to your message and mission. I've never had a heavier heart in Krishna consciousness than I do now, and it makes it a little difficult to express myself to you before others. I know that in your presence all doubts and misconceptions disappear, being replaced with the enlivenment of hearing, glorifying, and remembering Krishna's names and glories which emanate from you. I know there was a time when you experienced discouragement and criticisms from many of your God brothers. You were not deterred in your determined execution of your spiritual master's instructions. In a small but similar way, I've never thought of you and prayed you as much as I have in the last few months. So despite my many disqualifications, I've never felt this close to you and enlivened in my practice of sadhana bhakti. Quote, Bhagavatam 7:9-28. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of my association with material desires, one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes, following the general populace. But your servant Narada Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I leave his service? End quote. Srila Prabhupada, your glories are declared in all the revealed scriptures, where descriptions of pure devotees and pure devotional service are discussed. You, although the master at whose feet all other Prabhus take shelter, are firmly and eternally in the shelter of your own spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and all our other previous acharyas. All your words, qualities, and activities are worshipable, and I pray to remain fixed and aspiring for the same surrender and consequent purification of the heart that you offer. I'm so grateful that you accepted me and have not given up on me after all these years. And I wish to tell you I dedicate myself and all within my sphere of influence to your service, to your message, with the loyalty and dedication of one who owes you his life. An aspect of your message and example that I hold on to with complete conviction is, in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear. You've taught us by words and example that this body is made to grow old, get diseased, and to die. You showed us that if we can gratefully tolerate whatever sufferings the body and mind experience, while taking full shelter in Krishna's holy names, glorification, and service, when giving up this body, we will go back home, back to Godhead. This is what Lord Chaitanya, you, and all his representatives have come to give us: eternal service to Krishna and his friends and family. Let the world become crazy. The world is crazy and all bad. Let everyone in the world join together to criticize the humble and insignificant attempt to practice and share pure Krishna consciousness. The volume of their combined voices don't deter a fortunate and surrendered devotee to change his convictions, his behavior and service to Guru and Guranga one iota. Seeking your blessings, please allow me to represent your instructions and mood as they are. I don't want to add anything or subtract anything. Let the light of the absolute truth be defended and repeated at all times and all circumstances. Please reveal in my heart, through your books, through your Leelas, through your followers, the Siddhanta of Bhaktivedanta. Guide my thoughts, decisions, and activities to always be in concord with your pleasure, your desires. Lastly, I pray to you every day, and will continue to gratefully pray for your followers, the preachers, and the leaders of our movement. Please bless us all with intelligence and common sense in Krishna consciousness, so as to be empowered as your instruments to share Krishna consciousness with the fortunate. May the envious and demoniac become pacified and peaceful by the purifying and merciful association of the devotees. If we are sincere and serious, and you bless us, then your glories will be spread throughout the three worlds, and the Lord's names and glories will be heard by everyone. Falling at your feet, your insignificant servant, Rajendra Nandana Das.
Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Tavarandasya Gyanandina Salakaya Chakshurmalitam Niratadamai Shri Guruveda Ukram Gotavatalam Pangundangai Degurim Yatkripatarama De Shigurum Niratana Vanchikalpatribhyscha Kripasindubhye Vachampatitanam Bhavanebhya Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. In an earlier offering, it was said that Prabhupada didn't very often touch people. It brings to mind this pastime of Prabhupada with Indradumna Swami. They had arrived in London. Indradumna Swami and Bhagavan had traveled with Prabhupada. So Prabhupada's luggage had come late, so Indradumna Swami, or Das at the time, was asked to wait and to get Prabhupada's luggage. So he did that, and when he finally got to the temple, the lecture was done. Everybody had taken prasadam, and so he was lamenting that he'd missed everything. So he had to go up to I think the third story or something. He's lugging these big suitcases up, and finally he gets up to Prabhupada's room, and he sets the luggage down, and he's paying obeisances to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada gave him a slap on the back. And then he said something, but he couldn't understand what Prabhupada said. And the servant heard him, and he said, "Boy, you're so fortunate." Why? What did Prabhupada say? He said, in the material world, things are very difficult. But when you go back to the spiritual world, everything will be very easy. Another time, Prabhupada was told that you're doing so much preaching around the world, but no one's going to Pakistan. You haven't sent anybody back. So Prabhupada said, okay, then that's Krishna's arrangement. So he sent Brahmananda to Pakistan. And his brother, Gargamuni, I think one went to there was East and West Pakistan back then. So one went to East, one went to the West. And then he got word that some American Vaishnavas had been killed because they were fighting. There was a war going on. So Prabhupada was like in total anxiety that Brahmananda or Gargamuni had been killed. Oh, it hadn't yet started. Okay, yeah, he wouldn't send someone to a war zone. Yes, good point. Thank you. So Prabhupada was in, Brahmananda. He was like so dear to Prabhupada and Gargamuni. So then Brahmananda came to Bombay, and Prabhupada was just so happy. It's described, he was touching different parts of his body. Just he's alive, And then he gave him a big hug. Brahmananda's big, yeah. So, yeah, probably couldn't get around it, maybe. And Prabhupada would hug devotees sometimes. And Prabhupada, yeah, he didn't touch many devotees' bodies, but he touched a lot of hearts. He touched a lot of hearts. Yamuna Devi, she tells this story of how they were in India, and Prabhupada was in one room and she was in another room, and both of them had balconies. And Prabhupada was out on his balcony looking out, and she was out on the balcony looking out. And she looked at Prabhupada and she said, "Prabhupada, I love you." And Prabhupada looked at her and said, "I know," and walked back into his room. And she is such a qualified, wonderful, saintly lady. She touched, she touched so many devotees' hearts. And recently, many of you know, some of you don't, this lady got a Bhagavad Gita in the Balboa Park. And she went to her home and she read it. And Balaram and myself, we were in the lobby here talking, and she came. This is before class, just before your class. And she said, "You gave a book to me a couple days ago, and I've been reading this book. I like it." She let out her heart for like 10 minutes. I mean, it's like, it was an amazing experience, wasn't it? So she stayed all day at the temple, and devotees were preaching to her, and someone gave her some beads, and and I was thinking, this is a devotee. She was touched by Prabhupada. Her heart was touched by Prabhupada. So, what are we going to? She wants to join. I mean, many devotees have come to the temple and they never left. That's actually how I came. I came to the temple and that was it. I never left. So I was thinking, what are you going to do with her? So there's no facility here. There's just small, minimal facility here. No women. So Devavrata suggested that she go to Gainesville. They have a nice program for training. So I call up Kalakanta, and he has a program in Houston now, and also in Gainesville. Yeah, and what they do is they have semesters where 12 people are in a semester for 3 months. And he said, well, in Gainesville we have 11, so there's 1 spot left. In Houston there was 3 spots left. So I told her, there's a very nice devotee, and I described him. I couldn't describe him any other way. I said, Kalakanta, he's an angel. Wonderful devotee. Wonderful devotee. So I told her, he's going to start a semester here for newcomers. It's a 3-month program. He has only 12 people there a semester. There's 11 so far. There's 1 spot left. You might want to go back home and get on the internet and, and yeah, you have to put there's a whole, what do you call it, applications. You have to fill out the application. She's a chemical engineer. and a concert pianist. So she's a very qualified lady. So she got in, and she's there right now. I called up Kalakanta, I think yesterday, yeah. And devotees are amazed. They're just saying, you're picking up from your past life. 16 rounds a day, no problem. Actually, she was doing 16 rounds before she left. The devotee gave her the beats. She was immediately starting chanting 16 rounds a day. It's like amazing. So she was touched by Srila Prabhupada. And this is going on all over the world. So many people are coming to Krishna. Of course, it wasn't like the Hare Krishna explosion when Prabhupada was actually here, back in the 70s. It was just amazing back in the 70s. And Prabhupada even mentioned that it's becoming an epidemic. And he said even the government, they're worried. These Hare Krishnas, they're going to get into the government. They're going to start, getting some positions in politics here. They were worried. Yeah. Prabhupada was so happy to hear that. And he did actually. He had Baldavanta, and he had other devotees. Yeah, one devotee even he in Australia. He even campaigned for president of the country. And he didn't get many votes, but that was there. So yeah, he touched so many hearts by his purity. I wanted to say something also about his innocence. Prabhupada was a great scholar. I mean, his purports. Sometimes his purports go for like 10 pages. It's like amazing. Such a great scholar, but he was very innocent. Back in 1967. In San Francisco, devotees were cooking. And Prabhupada went in to see how they're doing, and he saw something white in a bowl. And Prabhupada said, "What is that?" "Well, Prabhupada, that's called whipped cream." "Whipped cream?" So he took his finger and put it in. The devotee said, "Prabhupada, you're not supposed to eat in the kitchen." "Oh, that's okay." And he just said, "That's yogurt." "No, Prabhupada, that's whipped cream." You never heard of whipped cream. So, no, Prabhupada, this is something new. It's whipped cream. And he looked around and he said, "What is that?" "Oh, those are strawberries, Prabhupada." Prabhupada never seen a strawberry. "Oh, strawberry, what?" So he took it. "Oh, very nice. Very nice." So yeah, he had this innocence when he was at the house in Butler, Pennsylvania. Sally Agarwal, she brought out the vacuum cleaner. He had never seen a vacuum cleaner, and she was cleaning the rug. He was like, "What is that?" So many things Prabhupada had never seen before. He's 70 years old, and so all these new things he's seen. Yeah. So he had this wonderful innocence about him. He touched so many hearts. I wanted to read something, which is one of the most amazing things I've ever read. And it's an offering by Sivaram Swami. This may have been, I don't know, this may have been sometime in the 80s. So he says, "While planning a composition for your offering, I was also attending to my regular correspondence. One letter stood out among the others. I enclose it here, translated into English, for your pleasure. Dear Sivaram Swami, Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I hope you do not mind my writing to you. I have never written to a spiritual master before. You do not know me. My name is Bhaktindora, and I live in Pets, Hungary. I am 14 years old, and I live at home with my mother and older sister. In 1992, I went to the Hare Krishna festival with a friend. I was not very interested, but I enjoyed the chanting and dancing at the end. After it was over, I bought a book, The Science of Self-Realization. I do not know why. Generally, I never read. I think it was because of the chanting. I took the book home and cannot remember what happened to it. One day my mother found it and was very angry with me. She thought I was reading this kind of thing. You see, our family members are all very strict Catholics. They thought Krishna consciousness was some kind of brainwashing. Actually, I wasn't reading the book. I had forgotten all about it. Somehow, it just appeared. Anyway, my mother was going to throw it away. My grandmother, who was 68, was in the kitchen at that time. She lives in the apartment upstairs. She came in and took the book. She looked at it and scolded me in a very heavy way. I thought that would be the end of it. I did not mind it so much, as I was in a lot of Maya at that time. About a week later, I overheard a conversation between my mother and grandmother. Granny was saying that this was not an ordinary book. She said that what Prabhupada was saying is what Jesus Christ said, and that Krishna is God. I was very surprised. She said that we should listen to what Prabhupada said and chant Hare Krishna, because that was the religion for this age. There was a lot of talk about how Christianity was no more, and no one was following the Bible. But what Prabhupada said was pure and perfect. Things really took a change from there. One day my grandmother visited the Namhat Center there in that city and began to chant on beads. She also began to buy Srila Prabhupada's books, one after another. She was spending all her pension on buying what she called the beautiful, holy Bhagavatam. Sometimes she could only afford to eat potatoes, but she kept buying the books. The devotees even came to her flat and helped her set up an altar. When I went upstairs, they had taken all the pictures down, and there were only pictures of Krishna everywhere. This was the beginning. This was the beginning. One night, Granny had a dream about Prabhupada. Something really happened to her then. I don't know what it was, but she began to get very enthusiastic. Next, she began to get the whole family involved. I mean, not just me and my mother and sister, but her 2 sons, their wives, and 6 children, as well as her brothers, sisters, and relatives. Before, she used to carry a Bible with her and quote Jesus Christ. Now she has the Bhagavad Gita and quotes the good Lord, Prabhupada. She became a veritable transcendental terror. Everyone in the family has to chant at least 1 round a day. In addition, Granny made everyone become a vegetarian, including my dog, Shikra. And we offer our food to a picture of Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya. Now, I am also getting out of Maya and chanting and reading a little also. Where I go to school, my friends inquire about Krishna, as they know I am a devotee. The whole family goes to the Namhat, all 16 of us. During the Christmas Marathon, we all tried to distribute Prabhupada's books. Even Granny would take books with her to the market and sell them to the vendors. Everyone is afraid of her because she is fearless. They all think she has gone crazy, but she does not care. Now she is saving to go to Budapest to see the newly installed deities. She has heard that Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda came to Hungary and are being worshipped there by the devotees. She says she wants to see God just once in this lifetime. At this year's Hare Krishna festival, you were speaking to the guests after the kirtan. You must remember my grandmother, because she came and sat right beside you and asked so many questions. At the end, when you stood to leave, she even kissed your hand. Remember? I also wanted to ask a question, but I was shy. Could I please ask that now? I hope you do not mind, Maharaj. I want to know what kind of man Srila Prabhupada was. He must be so dear to Krishna to have spread this message all over the world. What are these books that changed my family so much? How is it possible that he can speak so powerfully through them? You must feel very fortunate to be his disciple. How great a man he is. Sometimes when my granny chants in front of a picture of Krishna, she cries. How does Prabhupada do that? I want to cry like that too. Granny dreams of Prabhupada, and sometimes she talks to his picture. Although it says on the cover of the book that he passed away, is Prabhupada really dead, or is he still alive? Do you think I can meet him someday? I am sorry that I have gone on so much. I would like to be a good devotee one day and help you and Prabhupada spread Krishna consciousness. Dear servant, Bhaktin Dora. Now Sivaram Swami continues. Srila Prabhupada, this is one letter from one girl who came in contact with you through one of your books. How many millions of such souls are there who have yet to write, who are directly experiencing your mercy daily, who read your books with implicit faith, whom you talk to in dreams and pictures, whose lives you change abruptly and reward with tears when chanting the holy name? How many people across the boundaries of rules and regulations by the strong boat of your mercy and practice and taste Krishna consciousness in a realm beyond logic and argument? I think these people are meeting you every day. Sivaram Swami ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yamuna Prabhu, can you hear me? Someone run into the kitchen, see if he's there. He should come and read the new Govardhan offering, which he wrote.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravana Pacharne Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Pashtatya Deshatarne. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept our most humble obeisances on behalf of the New Govardhan community. So Prabhu, anyways, I'm very grateful for so many years to be in all your wonderful association, such loving, kind devotees, and just being a member of this community family. And I was asked to write the offering for our community this year, so I tried to write something. I hope I represented us well. So Hare Krishna. So We here at New Govardhan Dham in San Diego are most fortunate to be part of your worldwide ISKCON family. We deeply appreciate, respect, and love you as our most esteemed well-wisher and our most beloved founder Acharya, our Srila Prabhupada. This past year and a half has been a very challenging time due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic has caused much death and misery throughout the world, which in turn have caused much uncertainty and flux in society at large. It has also impacted your ISKCON, where it has brought on sickness and the premature passing of some of your dear followers. Although deadly disease is a part of this material existence, the pandemic has brought this to us in a very challenging form. As you have told us so many times, the material world is not our true home and is always beset by the miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease, which all come with having a material body in this realm of Maya. Due to your kind grace and guidance, Srila Prabhupada, we have actual transcendental knowledge and the practical means to apply it. From you, we have received what we need to help us and others navigate the treacherous waters of this material existence and find true solace in loving devotional service to Lord Krishna. Here at your New Govardhan Temple, we feel very blessed to have such a sincere community of devotees comprised of both those who live and serve in your temple and those who live outside, but are fully committed to serving you and Shri Shri Radha Giridhari, Shri Shri Gauranitai, and Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev and Subhadra Devi. Having this foundation of a loving community of devotees, we can say that although we have been affected by the challenges presented by COVID-19 over the past year and a half, we have kept moving forward in our efforts to render service to you, to the deities in our temple, to your devotees, and to your heartfelt mission, which is to share Krishna consciousness, everything that you have given to us, for the benefit of others. Over the course of this challenging period, in spite of how the pandemic has impacted a number of devotees who would normally be able to help with service at the temple, service to Shri Shri Radha Giridhari has gone on nicely due to the dedication of their pujaris and cooks and the support of others who have come forward to ensure that their service would continue uninterrupted. Book distribution has increased this year, since so many of your devotees are committed to distributing your books during the year and on through the Christmas marathon. The daily temple programs, including morning and evening classes, kirtans, and darshans, have gone on nicely, and all these could be viewed online when the temple was not able to allow guests to attend. The Thursday Krishna Lounge program and the Sunday Krishna Fest, along with other festivals, have also been going on even though they had to be adjusted due to the COVID-19 restrictions. Devotees in your community here also came through to help financially and thus ensure that our temple's bills would be taken care of during this difficult period. In addition, we are very happy to let you know that your temple is now free and clear of its mortgage debt due to many of your followers in the San Diego community coming forward to help clear this financial burden. Srila Prabhupada, on a very personal note, we here at New Govardhan want to thank you for your most gracious and loving foresight in what you have given us in the form of the loving association in a community of devotees and friends. Last year, our community lost one of your spiritual granddaughters to cancer, my daughter Shamali Dasi. Shamali was born here in New Govardhan 36 years ago. And due to your mercy, Srila Prabhupada, she grew up in a community that was created by you through your mission, full of loving family members, friends, and well-wishers from the very day she was born. Because of you, because of how you gave Krishna to us in the form of your words, your example, and your books, along with your ever-loving presence, which is always with us, and which was reflected so nicely by those she grew up with here. She grew up knowing she was cared for and loved by you, Lord Krishna, her family, and Krishna's devotees in so many wonderful ways. Shamali was such a sweet soul, and she shared her life of loving devotional service here in our new Govardhan community and in so many places around the world. Her sharing of her devotion and love over the course of her life and during her preparation for death deeply moved the hearts of all who knew her. While Shamali prepared herself to leave this world, her spiritual master Indradyumna Swami, her loving husband and family, your devotees, and her many friends and well-wishers from around the world all came together to be there for her in so many wonderful ways. With all of this heartfelt support surrounding and embracing her, she was able to fix her mind on Krishna with determination, love, and full faith in him and his holy names. In all of this, the devotees simply reflect your boundless care and compassion, Srila Prabhupada. We all miss Shamali so very much, but we also feel solace in our hearts, knowing she left under the shelter of your mercy and blessings. Dear Srila Prabhupada, through your caring so much for our dear Shamali Dasi, both her life and her passing away were very auspicious, a vivid example of how far-reaching your spiritual vision is and how your loving kindness is present with all of us now and for all time to come. Thank you, dear Srila Prabhupada, for all the gifts you have given us out of your boundless mercy, gifts that continue to unfold in depth and wonder, like the opening of a beautiful 1,000-petaled lotus. Each petal of this transcendental lotus reveals more and more of the treasure that you have shared with us and that you continue to share with us through your loving example, your amazing teachings, both recorded and in your books, your preaching, your mission, and your dedicated and loving followers. Dear Srila Prabhupada, thank you so much for coming from the transcendental realm of Goloka Vrindavan to this world to captivate us all with your unsurpassed kindness, with the chanting of Krishna's sweet holy names, and with the true and clear understanding you brought to us of what our real goal in life is, along with the means to achieve it. All of us here in New Govardhan Dham pray to always be engaged in your loving service and to be able, by your kind mercy and blessings, to increase our service to you and your mission in sure and steady ways so as to please you more and more. Sincerely and with love, your servants at New Govardhan Dham, ISKCON San Diego, California, USA. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Written by Yamunapati Das.
Hare Krishna. Anyways,
Thank you, Prabhu.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharne, Nivishesha Shunyavadi, Paschatya Desatarne. Over the past couple of years, there have been many changes in the world due to politics and worldwide pandemic. Attendance at the temple has been less than usual, and people are more and more divided among themselves. All in all, there is much confusion and anxiety pervading the society. This, of course, is exactly what we can expect in this Kali Yuga, where such things are commonplace. Srila Prabhupada, You came to us through this quarrel and confusion. You were able to show us the real situation and how to see through the smokescreen of Maya, to see who, capital Who, is behind all manifestations and point out the solution to all these problems. It is hard to imagine what you faced when you came here. You came alone, with no backing or money, to face head-on the materialistic so-called civilization of the West. There was only one way to characterize your divine grace. You were bold and unafraid. The sacrifices you made for us, the unfortunate souls embedded in this Kali Yuga, are not possible to imagine for any ordinary man. Even though you were never really in good health, you showed us a tremendous amount of energy in serving Krishna. You worked harder than anyone, and yet never berated us for not keeping up. There is no explanation for your endless enthusiasm to spread Krishna consciousness other than to realize that you have no material desires, and your life is dedicated 110% to serving Krishna. Without seeing you in person and observing your daily activities, those born in the future will have a hard time believing you were able to accomplish such a grand vision single-handedly, to guide so many thousands of us initiated disciples, write so many books, correspond and reply to any and all mail, travel constantly, offer management advice to temple leaders worldwide, and give daily lectures in the temple. I didn't include preaching to guests and anybody who came. An ordinary man would collapse under the weight of such tireless engagement. You never took a vacation to relieve yourself of all the anxieties of caring for disciples who were totally dependent upon your guidance. There was never any me time available, even to write your books. You were able to pull the strings of your closest disciples, to enthuse them to lead the rest of us, in spite of the fact that in normal life, many if not most of us would never become friends. Somehow, you were the puppet master, carefully engaging a wide variety of human beings in service to Krishna and keep us working together. Your fear was that some might go away due to some personal differences, but you begged us to remain in the society, no matter what. Whereas Lord Jesus had only a dozen disciples, you had thousands, and it is increasing daily. The books you so carefully wrote are being distributed widely across the globe, ensuring that future generations of fortunate souls will have a chance to associate with you, and thus gain access to the goal of life and become a Krishna Bhakta. Now that I'm entering the final stage of my life, I look back and lament that I could not do more to sacrifice myself as you did. At the present moment, I just try to find some engagement to at least feel connected to Krishna in some way or other. My greatest treasure is to be able to address an audience and speak a little of our philosophy. I'm a very shy and introverted person normally, but I don't have any problem speaking to any number of people because I'm sure that somehow your words that I've heard so many times will appear from my mouth. All I have to do is open my mouth and your words come out. Even though I lack substantial realization, you're always there to put thoughts in my head. And when the class is over, I manage to say something cogent. And people are very glad to hear it. Srila Prabhupada, even if I can't make it back to Godhead, I pray that I may be able to serve you in any and all of my future births. Your unworthy servant, disciple. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You hear me? Okay. I just said that by the order of Dravida, right? I'm here. And actually, Dravida Prabhu always, every year, encourages us to write something. And rascal that I am, I never really write anything. But I've been thinking about it and how hard it is to say something about Srila Prabhupada. First of all, because we cannot really understand the depth of his devotion and love for Krishna. And on the other hand, so many devotees have said so many things about Prabhupada. It's really hard to find to find something that has never been said. You know, I mean, granted, Prabhupada's glories are like the unlimited glories of Krishna. They have no limits. We could speak about him over and over and over, but at the same time, you know, our limitations don't really allow us to see how deep that love and devotion really is that Prabhupada had for Krishna. Because his sacrifices, everything he did, we can see it, but it requires more than that. So thinking about all these things, I been remembering one discussion that we were having with this man who prided himself to be an atheist. And you know, he was really convinced that, you know, there was no way we could prove him that there was a God. So there was a moment where he was speaking, we were telling him that Krishna consciousness is a spiritual science, as Srila Prabhupada presented it. And then he said, well, you know, what do you say to those people who come and try Krishna consciousness and it doesn't work for them? You know, and then we were like, well, it doesn't really work for everybody unless you try with pure sincerity, with all your heart. It's not that you come and experiment and you're going to get something. It's actually, the sincerity is a part that he has to be there. And we were quoting all the time things that Srila Prabhupada was telling us. So at a certain moment he said, well, but you know, for example, if I want to make water, there is a chemical process that H2O, I mix, you know, the H2O in the proper way and it comes out following a specific procedure. And then I felt Srila Prabhupada's presence in that moment because it reminded me. One time I was in chemistry class and we had 13 groups trying to make water, mixing that, and the teacher was telling us everything. Everybody failed, except for two people, or two groups that actually got water. Everybody else was a mess. Even though we were following the process, even though we were following the instructions of the teacher. And then at the end, the teacher said, well, you know, yeah, most everybody failed, and it happens all the time because there's something called expertise. You need that expertise to, you know, once you keep doing this and this and this, eventually you get that. You get that practice, right? So you have to be really dedicated. You have to have that talent and everything. So I quoted those things to him. And I say, in science, there is always trial and error. You know, it's not that everything is perfect. They have trial and error. So Krishna consciousness, we also have trial and error. But it's, the difference is, even if you come and try, and you don't really succeed, Srila Prabhupada said in the Srimad Bhagavatam that, you know, your life will always be changed forever, even though at the moment you might not notice. So we were quoting things that we read from Prabhupada's lectures, that we read from his books and everything. And at the end, he was really, really upset, you know, and he said, you know, I don't know why you guys are so arrogant. He said, because, he said, we were very arrogant. He said, you know, your Bhagavad Gita says as it is, like you're the ones who know the whole thing. And then again, I said, look, the answer is there in the Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada is giving us the answer. Prabhupada said there were many Bhagavad Gitas written before this one, and none of them made one devotee of Krishna. Now, he wrote this Bhagavad Gita as it is, and look how many devotees are all over the world. One more proof than that you want. It's a practical proof. So it made me think a lot about when we really have authority in what we say. We can really, really have very strong arguments. Of course, there's going to be people that still they will not accept no matter what. No matter how much we give them the proof, there's always, it's not good enough for them, you know, because they don't really want to believe, they don't really want to practice. But for the devotees who really have faith in Srila Prabhupada, he definitely will empower us. He definitely will give us the knowledge to go ahead, right? When Prabhupada came to the West, you know, America was going through the whole process of the whole counterculture thing all over the West. And more than propositions and answers, it was a whole bunch of young people with a lot of questions. That's what it was. People were wondering. And Prabhupada came with the perfect answers, right? And he had the most relevant knowledge for them at that time. Our society nowadays in 2021 is quite different from them. But the answers that Srila Prabhupada brought, all the information that he brought, his movement is still relevant because it's something that doesn't really appeal to cultural expressions or appeals to trends and tendencies. It appeals to the real soul. It appeals to the spirit soul. And if you sincerely apply yourself to these teachings and you dedicate your life the best you can to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission, your life will be really successful, even though apparently might not be. Just like we cannot understand Prabhupada's glories, we cannot really understand the effects of practicing Krishna consciousness under his guidance. So I think if we try to find a better example than Srila Prabhupada, we're going to fail. Because, you know, as Bharinarayan Maharaj says, it's often imitated, never duplicated. He said that about Srila Prabhupada, and it's true. Many people might try, many people might give you the answer, but nobody has the depth of devotion and love that Srila Prabhupada had. And if you appeal to that, and if you try to surrender to that mission to the best of your ability, your life will be successful. So that's all I can say. You know, and all glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Om Jnanativadandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulan Malitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karitavachalam Pangam Langaite Girim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinitarinam Vancha Koptarubhishcha Kripasanubhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gauda Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So it's a most glorious, amazing day. We're celebrating Srila Prabhupada's appearance day. When Srila Prabhupada was in New York, he was sitting on a bench, and there was I think it was a subway conductor, and Srila Prabhupada was explaining to this man how, oh yes, I have hundreds of temples, and I have so many students, and at the particular time he they were unmanifest. They weren't there. But Srila Prabhupada was seeing how they would be there. And Srila Prabhupada was also asked one time, well, you know, why was this International Society for Krishna Consciousness created? And Srila Prabhupada said, at least in this case, he said that, well, I created it because I wanted the association of devotees. Which, yeah, that happened. I mean, he created ISKCON, and then there were so many devotees, so many disciples who have been introduced to Krishna consciousness, initiated by Srila Prabhupada, and continuing for so many years. I'm thinking of one devotee. I don't know his name, but I saw him at the San Francisco Rath Yatra recently. And you see pictures of him when he was a young man. He looks he looks similar now, but you see pictures of him when he's a young man. And you see Srila Prabhupada dancing in the Rath Yatra, San Francisco. It's the one where Srila Prabhupada, I think Bhavananda, he dressed Prabhupada up in this fancy dress, and Prabhupada's dancing, all the devotees are there. But you see the picture of Srila Prabhupada dancing, and you see this devotee, and he's like on his knee, and he's playing the mridanga, and he's smiling, looking at Srila Prabhupada. And anyways, when I was there at the Rath Yatra, he was there, and he was chanting, leading kirtan. But anyways, it's nice to see so many years of his enthusiasm. Yes. Hari Vasara, yeah, that's him. Very enthusiastic. I also saw, what is it, Bahul? Yeah, I saw him. Yeah, saw him there too. So, but yeah, Srila Prabhupada, he created ISKCON and then so many devotees. And also Srila Prabhupada said that he created ISKCON to facilitate, he says in the Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita, right, Dadati, Pritigrinati, Guyamaikati, Prichati. There's 611 exchanges, and Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport there how he says that this ISKCON was created to facilitate these 611 exchanges. Giving prasadam, accepting prasadam, giving gifts, accepting gifts, inquiring confidentially, and revealing one's mind. So, and we see that Srila Prabhupada, as the perfect acharya, he was perfect in these 611 exchanges, demonstrating them how to engage in them. And I was just thinking of how a few examples of that, how Srila Prabhupada engaged in these exchanges. But one example is that in giving prasadam, we heard recently from Bhakti Sundar Goswami how when Prabhupada went to Venezuela, which was his only visit there, we visited one time, Bhakti Sundar Goswami, as a young brahmachari, went out to distribute books in the city of Venezuela. And then he came back, and there's a patio kind of like this, and the temple president said, don't allow anybody to, the temple president told the devotees, don't go on the patio, just let Srila Prabhupada stay there and relax, just be there by himself. So then Bhakti Sundar Goswami, getting back from book distribution, he forgot. So he just walked down into the patio, and he saw Srila Prabhupada there in a rocking chair, just sitting there chanting. And then Bhakti Sundar Goswami said he just froze. He didn't know what to, I was thinking kind of like, of course, it was kind of, deer in the headlights or something, but he just froze. He didn't know what to do. So he was thinking, oh, should I continue walking? Should I go this way, that way? So he's just staring at Prabhupada, and then Prabhupada just kind of gave a motion like, what's going on? So then Maharaj said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, I just returned from the city. I was distributing your books. And then Prabhupada said, oh, great. And he said, how are the Venezuelan people liking my books? And Maharaj said, oh, they're liking them very much. He said, they're taking them, and sometimes they come to the temple and they're asking about new titles, and so then Prabhupada stands up, and then he says, okay, follow me. So then so Maharaj follows him and into his room, Prabhupada's meeting room, and Prabhupada had a plate of sweets there. Maharaj didn't say what type of sweet there, but anyways, he had a plate of sweets there. So Srila Prabhupada, he grabbed one of a sweet, and then he gave it to Bhakti Sundar Goswami. And then Prabhupada said, oh, thank you very much for helping me. So this is a case of Srila Prabhupada giving prasadam. And of course, there's innumerable examples of Srila Prabhupada giving prasadam. We could go on and on and on, different pastimes like that, but where you have the ISKCON bullets, right? But anyways, so. And then you have Srila Prabhupada accepting prasadam. So Srila Prabhupada trained his disciples to cook, which were trying to contact Apurva Prabhu, one of Prabhupada's cooks, to ask him to come here to San Diego and to spend some weeks here and to help us devotees, you know, more trained in cooking. So, he was there in Brooklyn, right? When you joined, he was a cook there. Yeah. So, anyways, we're going to contact him and ask if he could come here, help with the Sunday feast and Krishna Lounge and things like that. So, anyways, Srila Prabhupada trained his disciples to cook, and he would accept that. He would accept that prasadam that they cooked, obviously. But, I mean, we should note that when Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan and other places in India, some people wouldn't accept it from the Western disciples. I think, oh, they're Westerners, we're not going to accept that. But Srila Prabhupada, from the very beginning, he just trained them, and he was accepting. He trained many devotees how to cook. But one devotee there's many devotees who stand out, but one devotee who stands out famously, Yamuna Devi. She would cook for Srila Prabhupada often, and Prabhupada was very happy with her cooking. So once when she was in somewhere in the world, I think she was in Vrindavan, because Pishima was there as Srila Prabhupada's sister. So Prabhupada finished prasadam, and then Yamuna Devi came in, and Srila Prabhupada had this different signs he would give Yamuna, indicating what level the prasadam was. So when Srila Prabhupada would rub his stomach, that was 3rd class, and then when he would go like this. When we go like this, it was 2nd class, and then when like this was 1st class, over the head. So when Yamuna Devi came in, Srila Prabhupada, he stacked all the, was it katoris, little cups, little empty cups. He stacked them all up like a pyramid. And then Yamuna Devi came in, and then Srila Prabhupada, with his finger, he knocked down the cups, and he said, Yamuna Devi ki jai. And then he went like this, 1st class, prasadam. So yeah, giving prasadam, accepting prasadam, giving gifts. Srila Prabhupada, in the early days, he brought back the girls, Malati and others, saris from India when Prabhupada came back. We heard that amazing story of Srila Prabhupada gifting that devotee his suitcase with all of his transcendental valuable items. They're Prabhupada giving gifts. Prabhupada would, when devotees would offer him watch, because sometimes it's hard to get gifts for the spiritual master. They don't, simple. But Srila Prabhupada would get a lot of watches, so Prabhupada would take off the watch he was wearing, give it to a disciple, accept the new one, even though sometimes the new one was not as nice as the one he was wearing. So giving gifts, accepting gifts. You have that case of Borijan Prabhu. He gave Srila Prabhupada a golden ring. I think it said, it had a P on it, right? Prabhupada. So then Prabhupada, he wore it, and also Borijan Prabhu gave Prabhupada like this, I think it was a golden bracelet. Prabhupada wore it. Also, devotees in the early days, they gave Prabhupada this, if you see pictures, it's kind of like looks like an old Western, kind of button up, Yes. Here, I'm going to pass the mic to him so they could hear. Here, can you tell it again, Vijay Prabhu? That's an important part. When Borijan Prabhu gave the ring to Srila Prabhupada.
When Prabhupada had received that ring, and the servant was there, massaging Prabhupada, and he saw the ring, he said, "Oh, Prabhupada, that's such a beautiful ring. Who gave that ring to you?" And he looked at Borijan, and he said, "Oh, somebody." And Borijan said afterward, he said, Prabhupada had this way of just touching your heart, just capturing your heart in this way.
Thank you. So giving gifts, accepting gifts, revealing one's mind, inquiring. I mean, Srila Prabhupada would, Srila Prabhupada would reveal his mind to his disciples, how he was feeling. And interesting enough, Srila Prabhupada would also, he would also inquire, which Prabhupada would ask, oh, what is your opinion? What do you think about this? There's a case in the Juhu book, which Srila Prabhupada is meeting with His Holiness Giraj Swami, Das Brahmachari at the time, and Bhagavan Prabhu. They're meeting, and there was this whole thing where Seti, Mr. Seti, he was helping getting some documents to help build the temple, and he wanted more money. And there's this whole exchange with Srila Prabhupada and his two disciples. It went from like 8, something like that, in the evening time. It went to like very late, 11 or 12, and Srila Prabhupada was going back and forth. Should we give him the money? Should we not give him the money? And then they're going back and forth, back and forth. And eventually Prabhupada, he just said, okay, we're not going to give it to him. And then the next morning, Mr. Seti came, and then he was asking Srila Prabhupada, I need some more money to help build the temple, this and that, documents. And Prabhupada said, okay, fine, and he gave it to him. So Prabhupada was training his disciples to try to analyze things, you'd say threadbare, thoroughly, to try to come up with the right idea. But Prabhupada was revealing, asking them what they think, and so on. So Srila Prabhupada was a perfect example of these 611 exchanges in terms of spreading Krishna consciousness, in terms of being Krishna conscious, in terms of Vaishnava relationships, in terms of everything. If we're just able to follow him in whatever small way we can, then that will be our success. If we're able to, the more the better, obviously. Follow the footsteps as closely as possible. So on this day, we could pray. We should pray every day, obviously, many times a day, but we could pray for his mercy and kindness to descend on us more, and this way be successful. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Bhagavan. Balaram, sorry. I'm a little slow. I'm going to call on some of our guests. Where is Tapas now? He's not here. Huh? Oh, you're here. Okay. So, but we need to hold it down.
Dharma Setu Prabhu.
Huh?
He's back there, Dharma Setu Prabhu.
I asked him. Okay. Dharma? Did you want to? Yeah, the thing, we're going to run out of time. We have 4 people waiting like an hour and a half already, online. So I don't want to make, Vijay Krishna, who's practically part of the temple. So, yeah. Give it.
Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna. 10 minutes max. Okay?
So it's my turn now?
Yes, but 10 minutes max. Do you read me?
Yes,
10 minutes.
Course, Prabhu.
10 minutes.
Than 10 minutes. So may I?
Yes.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So this is my offering to the Vyasa Puja of Srila Prabhupada 2021. Here it goes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Okay, so
Can you do it, Tapas? Vijay, put the video on so we can see you.
oh no, I cannot. I'm not presentable. I'm sorry.
Okay. Go on.
Okay, so Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Srila Prabhupada, when I was walking my baby steps in Krishna consciousness 45 years ago, at the time when the democratic revolution deposed the fascist dictatorship. Your books were not available for the Portuguese devotees to study them. And when I read your Bhagavad Gita as it is for the first time, I was not totally aware of how your books are not different from Lord Krishna, who can be recognized as the supreme powerhouse related to eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Today, after studying your books for almost 50 years, I do feel the energy that flows from the supreme powerhouse through the disciplic succession in order to revitalize the most unfortunate part and parcel that I am. Whenever I submissively study your books with the guidance of your most advanced disciples like Dravida Prabhu and others, I do realize my own immortality. I do become amazed by how much and how best the part and parcel that I am is able to understand. And I always end up my studying of your books with a big smile and lots of transcendental laughs inside my heart. So, my dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept as my humble offering to your Vyasa Puja 2021 this most humble statement. Your books changed my life. Now I know that without the regular association with your books, my life becomes completely void of meaning. And this is the same as to say that without your books, I am no better than forever dead, I am no better than forever full, and I am no better than forever miserable. Srila Prabhupada, please save me from the worst in order for me to help you save everybody else from the worst. Your most fallen, ignorant, undeserving servant, Vijaya Krishna Das.
For that, Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Wonderful service, Dravida Prabhu. Haribo.
Haribo. What's the name? Paneshwari. Paneshwari? Are you there?
I am here. I'm here. Hold on a sec. I'm in the middle of cooking, so.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Bhakti Dharani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Srila Prabhupada. Recently, last year, Guru Maharaj written in his poem, Prabhupada mein hoita kabhi ke haisa, where would we be without Srila Prabhupada? And as I reflect back on my life, I realized that you have made my good fortune, you have saved my life, and you have protected my family. This world is considered Dukkalayam Saswatam. It is the ocean, it is a place of misery. Yet there is a silver lining. And that silver lining, Srila Prabhupada, is you. And you have given us 3 wonderful gifts. And one of those gifts is the Mahamantra. The Mahamantra is our direct line to the spiritual world. It is our lifeline. You have given us the deities. And the deities and the temple is the embassy in the spiritual world, is the embassy of the spiritual world in the material world. And finally, Srila Prabhupada, you have given us this family of ISKCON. And during this time of the pandemic, we were not able to visit the temple, nor we are able to associate with the devotees. But as my Guru Maharaj says, he was telling a joke that Maya had said, look, I have closed all your temples. And Guru Maharaj said, yes, but now you have made every house a temple because Zoom is now available everywhere. So before we'd have to go to the temple, but the temple has now come to our home directly. So this is also another silver lining. We think that things are difficult, and things are difficult, but that's to make us realize that it is a difficult place. If things become too easy, we think that things are okay and we can stick around. We need to have a little bit of fire underneath us in order to make us move quickly out of this material world. Yet you have not forsaken us, because you have given us your books. You have given us the association of all these devotees. And my only request on this Vyasa Puja day is that you continue to give me the protection of your lotus feet. You continue to give my family your protection, and you allow me the honor of sharing Krishna consciousness with everybody who I come in contact. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maneshwari. That was wonderful.
Hare Krishna.
What is it? Dhanabari Mataji, you there? Aha.
Yes, Prabhu, please
and
accept my humble obeisance.
Can we see you? Put on the video.
Yes, sure. Yes, sure. One
Alt
second.
V. Alt V. Just hit Alt V. There's
Okay.
a hotkey. There you go. But you have to.
All right. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I am not prepared, but I will say something. Somebody asked me yesterday, the newcomer, like, how did you come to Krishna consciousness? What attracted you? And what I told them that first thing attracted me was simplicity, simple process. Nobody ever in my life I've had experienced any process that Bhagavad Gita class and Bhagavatam class and the association Kirtan, the process every day. And that really attracted me. Another thing what Prabhupada gave, which I like, so many things, but I'm going to say it in short, that the guru, Prabhupada said no fake gurus, that all gurus or any devotee's life should be open and not secret. So it's not like you can have a far darshan, guru's darshan from far away, and whatever they are doing inside is different and outside is different. So no duplicity, and that kind of, I like that very pure thing, that you have to, what you preach, whatever you follow what you preach. It's not like preaching is different, and fake guru or the pretender guru in India, so what some of them. So that was that, and attracted me so much. And the books and the spotless character, and so many things like Mataji's and other Prabhuji said about the books are the main. He is in his books in Vani, and what he did in 12 years, I mean, it's mind-boggling. It's impossible for a human at that age to 40 rupees and change the world, and that because of his sadhana and strong sadhana and pure bhakti. So it's very, very, attracting to me, and I hope I can live up to my Guru Maharaj and Prabhupada's preaching, and I want to do my best, and I pray to Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, that please protect me, and may I won't fall down, or I will continue and try to make you proud and do whatever I can in my ability. So thank you so much, and thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, everybody, and thanks to this Radha Giridhari's temple devotees who are working tirelessly, serving everybody, all the brahmachari, sannyasis and all, and including Dravida Prabhu and all brahmacharis. So I don't have a word to express. Thank you is not enough, but I'm humbly, thanking you. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, Dhanabai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Varshana. Are you there, Varshana?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, yes.
Okay. Dhanabai, I think you can hit Alt V again. Okay. All right, what about that thing? Can we get rid of that? All right, we have technical difficulty. Go ahead, Varshana.
Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini. Our dear Srila Prabhupada, I would like to offer my gratitude for 3 things that you have given us. Number 1 is the scientific teaching that are presented in your books. And I call it scientific because the teachings are presented so clearly and in a systematic way. When my children and I read the Bhagavatam every day, the discussions that I have with them is very purifying. And I would like to give you one example of that. So over the course of last year, when we were homeschooling, my son and I, my older son and I, we were reading the Old Testament as part of our school curriculum. And he was able to distill the message that he gained through Old Testament, and he compared it with Srimad Bhagavatam. And when he presented it so clearly, I knew that the process of reading your books was working. So number 1, I'm grateful for the books that you presented to us. Number 2 is this, the association that you've given us, the people that have touched our lives. Since these past 18 years that we've been in Krishna consciousness, so many people have contributed to our growth in Krishna consciousness. And yet if we are stuck where we are, it is just our own conditioning. But I'm offering my gratitude to all of those devotees, our mentors, our spiritual master, and the association that we have received in many of the cities that we have lived in. So my gratitude goes to them. And all of that is possible just by your mercy, Srila Prabhupada, the temples that you have opened up, the association that you have created. And as Balaram Prabhu was reading beforehand, the 6 processes, the 6 exchanges between devotees, so clearly explained by Rupa Goswami, was given to us by you. And I wanted to express my gratitude for that. And the third thing that has aligned, so number 1, we have the teachings. Number 2, we see perfect examples. Number 3 is the process by which even a person like me can grow in our Krishna consciousness, and that process is the process of chanting the holy name. I certainly don't have any taste for chanting, but as Lord Brahma says, Jiveta yo mukti pade sadaya bhak, just by staying alive in this Krishna consciousness, hopefully someday we will also become the rightful heir of the spiritual kingdom. And so this offering is made to Srila Prabhupada on behalf of me and my family, Ganganarayan Prabhu, myself, Govardhan, and Govinda. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Varshan. Thank you very much, Varshan. Thank you, Haribol. Sampada, did you want to say something? Please.
Scribbled this down real fast. Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivasesha Sunyavadi Prasthaya. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances in the dust of your lotus feet. I actually don't know how I wound up at the shelter of your lotus feet. It has to be just by your causeless mercy. I was not searching for God. I was completely satisfied with my mundane material life. But somehow you found me and dragged me into your temple at 55th Street in New York City. My family was completely freaked out, and I was very attached to them. My mother thought I was crazy, and she thought there were drugs in the food. My brother came to visit me, and he wouldn't even walk into the temple. He made me meet him outside on the corner because he thought it was an offense to God to be in the temple. That was during the time of devotees were being kidnapped and deprogrammed. And my parents told me afterwards that they thought of deprogramming me, but it cost too much money. Just shortly after I moved in, you arrived for the first ever Ratha Yatra down Fifth Avenue, which you said was the most important street in the world. During the morning program, you gave me a cookie from your lotus hands. I remember I didn't want to eat it, but I wanted to hold on to it forever. I did eat it, though. After a year in that temple, you brought me to San Diego, where you engaged me in your Sankirtan movement, and where I met the best friends I could ever have. Most of them who are still in my life 40 plus years later. You engaged me in the deity worship of Sri Sri Radhagiridhari, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, and Gauranitai, and allowed me to dress them all these years. Srila Prabhupada, I pray to be able to appreciate all that you have given me, because I am still a big rascal. And even though I have so much, I'm still looking for happiness elsewhere. Please bless me that I will always take shelter of your lotus feet and never leave them. Your insignificant servant, Sampada Dasi.
Thank you, Sampada. Hare Krishna. Guru Krishna, you want to say something? Yeah, it's in there. Yeah, it's in the book. You want to read it? It's right here. We have something called GBC.
Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharne Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paskatya Deshatarne. This is an offering by Satsrup Das Goswami. And we're reading it from the Srila Prabhupada Tributes from August 2021. It begins, the title is, How Bold You Were. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. How bold you were to lead Hare Krishna kirtans to audiences who had never heard the word Krishna, and you induced them to sing in response. How bold you were to immediately lecture on Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to people who had never heard of him. You broke through the barrier of their ignorance and told them that Krishna was God. You quoted many verses from the Bhagavad Gita as evidence, although they couldn't understand a word of the Sanskrit. You trusted that the transcendental sound vibration would purify them, and so you freely gave it out, although they didn't know the language. You had a thick Bengali accent. The theological, philosophical concepts were entirely new to the Lower East Side of New York City and San Francisco youth. Yet you were charismatic and charming, as the Village Voice reporter who interviewed you in the Bowery Loft said, I just plain liked the guy. But you didn't water down the teachings. You didn't dumb down the philosophy. So today, when I listen to your early classes at 26 2nd Avenue, or your talks to outside groups and one-time lectures to students at colleges, I am simply amazed at how bold you were, diving at once into the heart of Krishna consciousness without any fear or hesitation. I love you for being straightforward. Every time I hear you speak, it builds my faith more and more. Your eternal servant, Satsrup Das Goswami. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. But he said he didn't have anything. I asked him earlier. Somakunda?
Om Jnana Dharanandasya Jnananjana Sharakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gaurvani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschanti Deshatarine. It is Srila Prabhupada's appearance day, but I guess I'll first remark on Janmashtami, Krishna's appearance day. It's so nice that they're right by each other. I mean, of course, one's guru's appearance doesn't need to be next to Krishna's appearance day, but it's just so nice. Like I associate them together. It's like, yeah, they're one thing, and they really are. So anyways, one thing. But I was thinking about Janmashtami yesterday. It was just so nice. Yeah, it was so nice. I mean, and you know, there's many reasons. It's not just like it's a holiday, and you know, like it's not just like it's some kind of holiday, and it's nice because we have like especially opulent food or something. You know, Balaram made really nice grunka potatoes and just really rich food or something. And it's not even that it's just that there's prasadam. It's not even just the opulence. It's not even the fact that it's off. It's not even just like the prasadam part of it. and maybe even beyond that, it's not even just that it's even Krishna's appearance day. But I mean, so much of it is just that, here all day I'm seeing these devotees like doing service all day, really nicely, and energetically, enthusiastically, and just so busy all day. And so while whatever, of those factors, it makes it incredible. But I mean, just specifically, I was just remarking on that last part, and how nice it is. I have nothing emotional to say. I'm just kind of tired, so I'm like being kind of funny. But yeah, it was just such a nice day. I mean, I wherever I go, wherever you go in the ashram, you go in the temple room, you go on the patio, everything, it's like filled. And I'm sorry, I'm wasting time pausing. But I would, I have like, out of like my material vision, I'd like see a devotee, and they'd be like engaged like so like intensely. And I'd see them like later, and they're still doing like service like so intensely. And because of my vision, I think, oh no, that poor devotee. I'll be like, oh no, that poor devotee. They're working so hard. Someone's got to relieve him. Working so hard, the poor devotee. But kind of missing the point that that's what happiness is. It's service. They're so happy. Like that's the thing. Like I'm not seeing devotees like engaging in service intensely because they're just really happy doing it. Like yesterday it was just incredible. And yeah, so I was just thinking that it was just, my vision's bad, and I'm seeing it, and I'm just seeing it, according to my own conditioning. I'm thinking, oh, that poor devotee's so busy all day, needs to take a break, and just take a break from service. But that's the thing, I'm seeing devotees all day, and they're so happy. They weren't just busy, they were just so happy, because they were engaged in service. And of course, service just makes people happy. Any kind of service makes people happy. You don't have to be a devotee. The worst life is a lonely life. Better than that, you at least have a dog to serve. You at least have some family to serve. And but as is made clear, that there is happiness there, but it's a matter of to what degree and to how long. There's happiness eating a really good fruit, and there's happiness eating a fruit roll-up. But the happiness is different. One is actually healthy. It's actually good. It actually is happiness. Or there's actually something real about it. And something, it may seem like it's happiness, but actually it's just, a very temporary thing with long-term, disappointment or, increased distress in the future. Anyway, the point is that service makes people happy. And I'm just saying that, service is making all these devotees happy. And it was really enlivening. Of course, service makes people happy. So if I, better than being alone, as I have a child to serve, I have a family to serve. But then the difficulty is, every single person, and it's especially the case in the modern world, that every single person is serving some different person, or oneself. So the example, everyone's throwing, you're throwing pebbles into different spots. All these ripples, it's just this chaotic, all these different ripples, competing ripples running into each other. But actual harmony and greater collective happiness is everybody's, aiming at the same thing. They're serving the same person. And so to the degree that that's there, then there's more harmony, there's more collective happiness, there's actually more happiness. And so that happiness ultimately should be in serving Krishna. That's the full happiness. And so I was thinking about that then this morning. I was thinking about Janmashtami and the service, and I was thinking about that the peace formula, that real peace, and I was thinking happiness also, but real peace comes from serving Krishna. It's not just a temporary thing, it's not just an illusory happiness, it's real happiness because it's real service to the person who really should be served, who's a well-wisher of everyone, proprietor of everything, the real enjoyer. And so it's real happiness. It's actually long-term happiness. It's not fleeting or just disappointment down the road. It's real happiness. And so I was so enlivened seeing all these devotees engaged in service all day, and it was just making me happy. As the day went on, I just became more happy actually. I just see devotees more and more, and every single time I'll see one devotee here doing something. It's devotees who are very new to the temple or new to Krishna consciousness, or devotees who have who are just, I'm thinking I see this person every single year doing the same service, and they're so ecstatic doing it. They're so happy doing it. And so it was just really enlivening. And I was just thinking that, on one hand, it's true that real happiness comes in serving Krishna. Krishna's a person who should be served. And if Krishna's not in the center, it shouldn't be a human. It shouldn't be just my pet or something like that. It should be Krishna. Because the nature of Krishna is that it actually makes everyone happy to serve Krishna. But then we have Srila Prabhupada. And if you really look at all the people doing service at the temple, they're, maybe even to some degree, to a large degree, really are serving Srila Prabhupada. Maybe more than they're thinking about serving Krishna. They're serving a person. And it works. It's not a separate ripple or anything like that. It's not a separate, thing. It's the same thing. Because a person has the same desires, the same everything. Is a pure representative of Krishna. And so it was just so nice just seeing devotees so happy because they're engaged so fully in service. And it's Krishna Janmashtami, but really that service wouldn't be there without Srila Prabhupada and people's desire to please Srila Prabhupada. Like Sachiv Das Goswami's entry there, I just plain liked the guy. And then Moga Leela Das Brahmachari and Bhakti Dimitri, they were watching that Srila Prabhupada movie on Saturday at night, and I was kind of peeking a little bit here and there, and then there was some part, and where it was just pointing out that the devotees there, they're enthusiastic, they're coming back, but they don't know anything about Krishna or Krishna consciousness. They just really like Srila Prabhupada, and then so enthusiastic to engage in service. And because it's true service, it's not exploitative service, it's not illusory service, it's actually making them happy, and that happiness will continue if one sees it properly, continues it. That's all. I was just thinking about that. It was so sweet.
Thank you, Mukunda.
Thank you.
Very nice reflection. The time has come, Amoga. Can you share some of your realizations?
I have something written. I'm just going to pull it up. Okay. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharini Vishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatani. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you on your most auspicious appearance day. Srila Prabhupada, being a topmost Vaishnava, you are an ocean of auspicious qualities. Unfit as I am to understand you, what to speak of glorify you, I do feel that one of these qualities stands out to me prominently. Your clear delineation of what is truth and what is not. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Our respectful obeisances are unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Goswami. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Dev and delivering the Western countries, which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. To cut down this impersonalism and voidism and the enemies of Krishna who are propagating it was your staunch determination in coming to the West. Imbibing the mood of your spiritual master, you preached Krishna consciousness without compromising just to satisfy the materialistic masses and never considering who was, quote, fit or unfit to receive it. Srila Prabhupada, who can fully enunciate your glories? Wherever you go, misconceptions, sahajaism, and any and all forms of cheating and rascaldom run away from that place in fear. The words in your books, lectures, and tapes leave no room for doubt. Krishna, the person, is God, and the goal of life is to engage in loving service to Him. By your order, your disciples and grand-disciples have distributed this message throughout the world, and in this way you have unleashed a tidal wave of mercy which has flooded all directions. I would be ungrateful not to acknowledge that you have shown me such mercy, Srila Prabhupada, but that I still do not render nice service to you, despite so much opportunity, is a testament to just how shameless I am. I may make some show of saying your words are my life and soul, but they are not. I have no devotion for you. I always fall for Maya's tricks. I am constantly harassed by the lower modes, and I remain under their control. I act only to serve my own interests, and I pathetically try to fool everyone around me into thinking I'm very qualified. Your words seem to go in one ear and out the other. But despite my numerous disqualifications, I want to stay with you. Please don't let me fall away. Where else is there to go? You are the spiritual master of the entire universe, and you have the ability to deliver anyone. I know that you are the one who can take me back to Godhead, but that is dependent on my realizing that your mercy is my only qualification. Therefore, I am most ardently praying, in all my stupidity, please accept me as your servant. Please help me to have the strength to turn my head away from pride and other such delusions, and let me become unconcerned with anything which is not pure, unalloyed devotional service. Help me to remember that this body does not belong to me, and that I have no right to use it for my own sense gratification. Please bless me to develop compassion for the conditioned souls, and a sense of urgency to try to extend myself to spread your movement, undeviated by considerations of my own bodily or mental comfort. I am falling again and again at your feet. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Longing to be your servant, Amogha Leela Das.
Tapas, does he speak English? Sorry. I was just making a joke. Chris? Not today. Oh, I'm sorry. Come.
Feels funny speaking to Prabhupada and facing away.
You can turn it over. There you go.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pacharni Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschachadeshtarni Jai Srila Prabhupada. Dear Srila Prabhupada, I remember hearing you say that when one becomes truly Krishna conscious, he can hear about and talk of Krishna endlessly without feeling tired or bored. I certainly haven't attained that state of consciousness. I also remember that when I was writing my paper as an initiate request, we had to answer 3 questions. One was, why do you accept Srila Prabhupada to be as good as God? I answered that I accept because Srila Prabhupada repeats unchanged the words and instructions of God. He comes in a bona fide line of disciplic succession and again repeats unchanged the science of Krishna. I accept that if I follow your instructions and guidance in the science of the soul and how to perfect my knowledge and love of God, then it is equal to Arjuna hearing directly from Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. I can hear from Krishna himself through you, Srila Prabhupada. That is all I could ever want. In the same way, as one who has attained love of God can speak and hear of him constantly, I am feeling that I am beginning to love you as I find such happiness and satisfaction in hearing about you from my God brothers and sisters. Your activities, your instructions, I find myself thinking and speaking of you, and your preaching, your activities, and your instructions. Please bless me that I can go on hearing you, sharing your words and activities with others, serving you, and developing love for you. I know that everything is in the holy names, but I wouldn't know of the holy names without you. Even though I am just a beginner in this process, I am confident that you are my everything for learning to love Krishna. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada.
Go to 11. And I'm looking at her Jayeshwari. Is she saying a Gayatri? No. Are you there? Haribol. Would you like to say something about Prabhupada? No, Jayeshwari. Yes, isn't that your name? You don't have to, but if you say a few words. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Prabhupada. You know, yesterday I was standing in front of the deities. I was saying, we are celebrating Janmashtami. We're celebrating the birth of Krishna just because of Prabhupada brought the Krishna to Western world. Even in the India, you know, lots of people are there. They know Krishna, but they do not know the way we're supposed to be knowing. And even myself was born in India, and I can like say, if I were in India living there, I would not be Krishna consciousness person. And Prabhupada says, who accepts the Krishna, who doesn't accept the Krishna is a fool. So my request to Prabhupada is, please, you know, you gave me the meaning of the life. You gave. Everyone says, you know, human birth is very precious. Human birth is precious, but for what reason is precious? They're saying just like, you know, finish your life or whatever they. So they say human birth is precious, but they were not giving the details why it is precious. So now, like Prabhupada, you gave me the meaning of the life. What is the preciousness meaning is, you make me understand. I know I was not, still I don't qualify to be part of your family, but only my love and my prayers to you, you accepted me. And I wish I will not forget the meaning of the human birth, and I would not die full. And even I take it, I know many more births I have to take it, maybe millions, to reach the goal, to be liberated. But still, whenever I take a birth, Prabhupada, just keep me in your shelter, and just keep me, make me accept Krishna, and make me understand Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Daniel went to get something. Looks like he has something to share. Thank you.
I'm still learning the mantra, so I'm using the little handbook.
Okay, go ahead.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Sarvate Deva Gura Vani Prachane Nirvesha Shunavadi Pashatya Dasha Tarani.
I'm working with him. I'm working with him on it. He's progressing. You should have heard it before.
I'm fairly new to Krishna's consciousness, but when I look around here at all the devotees, you know, I know that like I've been here more than just this life. And when I actually first came here to the temple and I saw Prabhupada, you know, on here in the altar, I don't know, I felt like such a familiarity coming to this temple. I just like, wow, you know, this is so livening, you know, just looking at Prabhupada, you know, just whoever done the art, you know, thank you. But Prabhupada, you know, in my heart, I always knew that there was some type of guru, some type of spiritual master just waiting for me to search him. And I was always desperate in my life, struggling to find that teacher. And I always believed that there was something more to life. There's something more that we could all learn from. And so when I look at every single person here, you know, I know that there's a part and parcel, each of us, of the Supreme Godhead. You know, Krishna has helped me so much throughout my life. And I think I couldn't have done anything without the mercy of Krishna. And glorifying Srila Prabhupada even more, I think I wouldn't even understand myself to any extent being on my own without coming to Krishna consciousness. There was a verse here that it was one of my favorite purports. I just learned it recently. It's chapter 9, text 2. I'll try the. I've been practicing a bit. Bear with me. Raja Vidya Raja Gunyam Pavaritram Idam Uttamam Paryakshavagamma Daharam Sukham Katavam Ayam Avyayam. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self-realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and joyfully performed. So in this purport, what I kind of learned was just, it's really condensed. It's like a couple pages, actually. I won't read the whole thing, but to my understanding is that in life, we all have these challenges, we all have these truths that we want to find. And when given the directions through, the mercy of Krishna, through the torchlight of knowledge through Srila Prabhupada, we're able to understand ourselves in such a deep way, such an impactful way to truly develop that connection with Krishna. And it's not just like some like, oh man, I'm gonna be chanting my japa and serving the devotees. No, it's done joyfully. You feel like at the end of it, you're like, wow, I've done something that actually helped people, liberate themselves and consciously be able. I was actually serving prasad yesterday, and I didn't want to stop. So I would try to say, I said, oh, come get me at 11, right? And it was 9 o'clock, and he said, oh, it's 11 already. I said, no way. And so I told him that, check the time. So I didn't go just yet. But I felt so lively just like serving the prasad, and I was not having like, my body was just being a body, and just wanting to cause pain for no reason. So, but when you really put yourself in that devotional practice, when you're really serving Srila Prabhupada, serving Krishna, serving your devotees and just the people around you, because they're also part and parcel of the Godhead. When you're really serving, you really do find that joyfully performedness. Anyways, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Haribol, Bhakta. I was just leafing through this Vyasa Puja book. There's some real treasures here. And there was one poem by Bhakti Gauravani Swami, the former Veda Vyas. And I met him back in '75. There was only one press in ISKCON at that time in LA. And he came to work on the German Bhagavatam. And we hit it off really nice. He was a brahmachari, and we did slideshows together, because you never find any kind of repository of slides as you find in LA in the archives of Srila Prabhupada, of Krishna, all kinds of things. So anyway, I have a real soft place in my heart for him, so I'd like to read this nice poem he wrote this year. Okay. Here it is. So, by the way, he's the one who translated the Chaitanya Charitamrita into German back in the early days, and much appreciated by Prabhupada. Very erudite, very sincere devotee. Namaham Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my prostrated obeisances at your lotus feet. Today marks the 125th anniversary of the most blessed event, your appearance in this world, an event that changed the course of the world forever. And this year, I will personally celebrate the 50th anniversary of my first meeting you in your Vani form, that's the words, another most blessed event that changed my life for good. So then he wrote this 8 verses, nice ashtaka in English, called Counting Blessings. Blessed the day when you appeared in Calcutta, sent by the Lord to spread His glory, and rescue the fallen lost in the gutter, forsaken slaves under the whip of Kali. Blessed the day when you took up your pen to translate the Bhagavat's eternal message for the planet's fortunate women and men in desperate need of hope and courage. Blessed the day when you came to the city of New York, known as the Rotten Big Apple, where drunkards and hippies evoked your pity while you endured their madness and babble. Blessed the day when you transformed a gift shop into a matchless Hare Krishna temple, a shelter for seekers to rise to the top, a place of pilgrimage for the faithful. Blessed the day when you took the chanting of Krishna's name to Tompkins Square Park, where your bongo playing and fervent singing changed it into a spiritual landmark. Blessed the day when you sent your disciples to Europe, to Hamburg's Botanical Garden, where I saw them chanting like Vaikuntha minstrels, voices from heaven on a sacred mission. Blessed the summer of 71, when I met you in printed form, your Vani incarnation. And blessed the summer of 72, when I met you in person to receive initiation. Blessed the day when you gave the order to take Krishna's words across every border. O Prabhupada, may I heed your call and distribute your mercy to one and all. Aspiring to follow in your blessed footsteps, I remain your ever grateful servant, Bhakti Gauravani Goswami. And if you'll allow me, I wrote this following poem. I don't know how many years it was ago, 4 or 5 years ago, for this day. And it's now posted on the back there as the book distributor's mission statement. O Prabhupada, O Prabhupada, on this great day when you appeared just like a ray of Krishna's vast effulgence bright to give this blind world back its sight, I thank you from the bottom of we thank you from the bottom of our hearts and pray with deepest love that we may serve your lotus feet in every circumstance we meet. As years go by and books go out, we see what life is all about. To serve your mission and our Lord's by spreading wide your sacred words. As well, you want us all to strive to let those words direct our lives. This safest path will lead us home, no more in Maya's realm to roam. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So it's getting to be close to 11. I think they're preparing for the Abhishek. Did you want to say something? Radhika? Okay. So I'm okay. It's such. I'm so moved every time we're able to work on this wonderful book. So I'm going to read Shiva Ramaswamy's offering. We have a new section of this book called GBC Emeriti. Those who have we retired in great honor with from the GBC, and he did so I think 1 or 2 years ago, and is now busy doing what he loves to do, studying the Shastra and writing books. And he just came out with a new one fairly recently. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to your divine grace. On your appearance day, allow me to offer some words of homage to your ISKCON, which you said was not different from you and your body. Please permit me to praise you in this way. Thakur Bhaktivinoda describes the genesis of one of his books to be a desired tree from the spiritual forest of goodness, a kalpavriksha that he brought to the world of men in the form of songs. Srila Prabhupada, I believe that you have also traveled through the same forest and transplanted another desired tree in the form of the Krishna consciousness movement, ISKCON. Like the residents of Vaikuntha, desired trees have limitless attributes such as beauty, opulence, and wonder, and these attributes are abundantly present in ISKCON. Of them, the one that now takes front and center in my mind is the attribute of mercy. ISKCON's benediction of spontaneous, loving devotion. For practicing devotees, love of Krishna means ecstatic love, or bhava bhakti. In the Nectar of Devotion, you explain that such perfection generally takes place by effort, sadhana, and in the exceptional case, by mercy, or kripa. To be more precise, the last stage in which devotees rise from sadhana to bhava also requires special mercy, as implied by the verse beginning, Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma. But this mercy depends on effort. How does mercy come? By the speaking, glancing, and good wishes of an advanced devotee. The rule of thumb given by acharyas is that devotees can give what they themselves have. Thus, a prema bhakta can give any form of devotion. A bhava bhakta can give bhava and faith. and a practitioner can give faith in sadhana. My conviction and realization, one shared by your other followers, is that you are a Paramahansa Prema Bhakta. Thus, without a doubt, your blessings can award the rarely attained perfection of Bhava Bhakti. Will you give that mercy? In the 12 years of your preaching pastimes, you repeatedly assured your followers that by offenseless Nam Sankirtan, they would attain perfection. The sadhana for that attainment was chanting 16 rounds and following the regulative principles. By such a forthcoming effort, we were guaranteed a corresponding mercy dispersed from the storehouse of your ever-well wishes and transcendental teachings. Thus, by your words, presence, and blessings, you guaranteed a mercy by which your direct disciples could rise to the stage of Bhava. That was Lord Chaitanya's mission and is ISKCON's main business. Now you are no longer physically present, but your ISKCON remains, as does its empowerment to give love. And so the same combination of sadhana and kripa assures all serious devotees that they too can attain Bhava Bhakti in this life. Then, with the blessing of Bhava, they can take birth on a planet in the material world where Krishna is enacting his pastimes and there gain qualification to return to the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. What if, for some reason, worthy devotees in ISKCON cannot find the association of living gurus and Vaishnavas to bless them with love? Then your mercy and instructions are there for all succeeding generations of followers not initiated by you. They too can attain the same result. That was your promise. Chant 16 rounds and follow the regulative principles. Thus, ISKCON assures that devotees will be able to attain ecstatic love from a qualified spiritual master, or alternatively, through your blessings, books, and eternal presence. Dear Srila Prabhupada, thank you for blessing us with the desired tree of ISKCON, a kalpa vriksha that yields fruits too numerous to name, and from which the juicy fruit of loving devotion, falling from its branches of mercy, reigns supreme. Your servant, Shivaram Swami. Really nice. And let's see. Are you ready? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.